Part 46. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 452. Jiating, Kudong Studio. Zhang Yu and several anchors were joking and chatting. After the final exam, she came to Shanghai and moved into the studio. Living in the studio provides rent reduction and affordable meals, so you can have a lot of money left over. Xiao, how much did you get last month? Less than 4,000. Zhang Yu actually earned more than 6,000 yuan in July, which is not counted as private income, but she is not stupid. How could she disclose her true income to make people jealous? That's pretty good. I still have less than 3,000. Xiaoman, can you make tens of thousands more this month? A young anchor looked at a tall, fair-skinned, and beautiful girl with eyes mixed with envy and jealousy. Lu Man snorted lightly, absolutely. This Lu Man is the Princess Xiaoman who was new to the business and met when Li Zhe went to KTV with Gu Mingcheng, the second-generation fake rich man who swindled money and sex. Later, she left the nightclub and went to work in an electronics factory, and was recruited by Kudong Studio to become an anchor. Lu Man is doing relatively well among the anchors in the studio, with an income of tens of thousands per month, and on good days, it can be 20, 30, 000 or more. Lu Man is very satisfied with her current life. She never thought she could earn so much before. In fact, if she had more contact with her older brothers in private, she could earn more. But Lu Man didn't want to and didn't dare to do that. The nightclub experience made her feel disgusted with men. Besides, the studio has regulations that prohibit private meetings between anchors and fans, let alone any transactions. Once discovered, they will be fired immediately. I feel like the anchor industry is getting harder and harder to work in. Yes, the competition is getting bigger and bigger. Now many college students are working part-time as anchors. Not only college students, but also many nightclub workers are coming to compete with us for their jobs. Several small anchors were talking and complaining. Most of them are factory girls. They don't have the academic status bonus of female students, and girls who come from nightclubs are not as flirtatious and open-minded. They have no advantage in competition. When Lu Man heard the word nightclub, his expression remained unchanged, but his heart skipped a beat. What she is most worried about now is that someone will find her doing a nightclub. You know, she has a pure personality. It's 9 o'clock. Running Man is on. Let's watch the show. A girl looked at the time and said. Yes, watch the show. Lu Man turned on the computer, and then the girls sat around the computer and watched the show together. Running Man opens with the members gathering. 7 of them, Deng Chao, Wang Baoqiang, Chen He, Chen Xiao, Guo Jingfei, Yang Hao and Luan Xiaolin, appear one by one. Deng Chao was introduced as a charismatic leader, Wang Baoqiang was a capable fighter and a master, and Chen Xiao was a romantic talent. The barrage kept passing by on the screen, and the number of barrages increased dramatically when Deng Chao, Wang Baoqiang, and Chen He appeared on the stage. Deng Chao and Wang Baoqiang are now very popular. Although Chen He is still a newcomer, the role of Zheng Xiaoxian has too much influence. When he appeared on the stage, he was a barrage of Zheng Xiaoxian. Guo Jingfei and Yang Hao had the least barrages. The two of them are the least famous. Guo Jingfei is mainly acting in dramas now, while Yang Hao has only played a few small roles. As for Chen Xiao, although he is not famous, he is handsome. When Luan Xiaolin made her final appearance, the barrage exploded. The Witch has just been released, and she is currently very popular. The recording location for this episode of Running Man is the same as the original version, which is also Lifeng Pagoda in Westlake. After the 7 official members were assembled, temporary guests also appeared. After Lu Yufei and Wang Zhaining appeared together, the barrage exploded again. Lu Yufei has rarely participated in shows in the past 2 years. Fans are eager to watch and wait for the show to start. She and Wang's Heining appear in the same frame, which is even more exciting. Many viewers who didn't know the truth even posted comments asking if the two were related. As for Zhao Minjiao, Sun Wanning, and Chen Xian, there are very few scenes of internet celebrities, and they are only briefly introduced. Even so, Zhang Yu and the others were still very envious. They, the young anchors, would never even think about the opportunity to appear on a show and share the same stage with a popular star. A young anchor said enviously, "I wonder when we will have the opportunity to be on a program like this. It's not that easy. If you don't have a platform, you can't even think about becoming famous." I heard that many of them fell in love with Mr. Li and were favored by the platform, a girl gossiped in a low voice. It's very possible. How else could such good resources come from, especially that Suyani? I feel like the company is trying to favor her, a girl agreed. Xiao, aren't you Mr. Li's classmate? Do you know any inside stories? How do I know the inside story? If I really have connections, I won't be short of resources, Zhang Yu said with a smile. She won't tell them any gossip about Li Jie. Who knows if anyone will reveal it? If it reaches Li Jie's ears, she will be in misery. At this time, the dormitory door was pushed open from the outside, and a woman of about 30 years old with a gentle temperament walked in. Zhang Yu, Lu Man and the others stood up one after another and greeted warmly, "Sister Xiao." Sister Xiao is their manager, and there are 20 or 30 small anchors under her management. Sister Xiao nodded to them, then glanced at the computer screen. "Are you guys watching Running Man too?" Zhang Yu said with a smile, "Of course we will support the programs produced by the company." Sister Xiao looked at her with a smile and said, "You are the only one who can speak." After a pause, she added, "You have to work harder, maybe you will have the opportunity to be on the show in the future." Zhang Yu and the others were all a little surprised. "Sister Xiao, do we really have a chance to be on the show?" "Work hard. The more popular you are, the more opportunities you will have." Sister Xiao glanced at Lu Man and said, "Xiao Man has a great chance." When Zhang Yu and the others heard this, they all looked at Lu Man with envy. Sister Xiao looked at Zhang Yu again, "And Xiao Yu, aren't you and Mr. Li classmates?" Delara is close. Agents like Sister Xiao all have performance appraisals. If they can cultivate a first-line internet celebrity, not only will their income skyrocket, but they will also have more confidence to speak in the company. After chatting with Zhang Yu, Lu Man and the others for a while, Sister Xiao stood up and said, "Okay, you can continue watching the show. I'll leave first." That's right, she remembered something and said, "The company will have a new artist director in a few days. Please be respectful when you meet him." "Sister Xiao, is the artist director male or female?" "There is a very young girl, her surname is Zhou, her name is Zhou Ziyu. Platinum Bay Mansion." Li Jie, Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi also watched Running Man together. Watching Deng Chao and Wang Baoqiang playing funny games on TV, Xiao Jiao and Shen Xian would laugh out loud from time to time. This version of Running Man is no worse than the original version, even better. Deng Chao, Wang Baoqiang, Guo Jingfei and Yang Hao are all comedians, and even Chen Xiao is a funny person. The show's effect is very good when they interact with each other. Luan Xiaolin doesn't have the baggage of being an idol and is very open-minded, which is much better than Baby Yang. Li Jie felt that Yang Baby's smile was fake when he looked at it. In the previous life, Running Man was extremely popular in China, otherwise Baby Yang would not have been promoted to the front line and received a salary of RMB 80 million. But Li Jie didn't think the show was very interesting, and he didn't understand why so many people liked watching it. He thinks it was largely due to the fact that there were too few outdoor reality shows in China at that time. In addition, if the program is well planned, funny, positive, and adaptable to a wide range of audiences, it will become popular. Xiao Jiao suddenly turned around and said, "Husband, can Shen Xinyi and I be on this show?" There was a hint of coquettishness and pleading in her tone. You two want to be on the show? Li Jie glanced at her and Shen Xin. Yeah, Xiao Qiao smiled and nodded. Xinyi can come, but you can't. Why? Xiao Qiao was unhappy upon hearing this. Li Jie glanced at Shen Xinyi again and said with a smile, Xinyi is popular, but you are not. Really not possible. No. Huh? Xiao Qiao snorted coldly, turned away, and ignored him. Li Jie said funnily, okay, wait until I get you the title of school beauty and let you appear on the show. Really? Xiao Qiao's eyes lit up instantly, and he couldn't hide his surprise. She was so surprised not only because she could be on the show, but also because she was the school beauty. I heard that Zhou became the beauty of the normal university. Xiao Qiao didn't think so on the surface, but in her heart she was envious and jealous. Of course it's true. Li Jie reached out and pulled Xiao Qiao into his arms. It's just a name for a school beauty. To him, it's just a matter of giving orders to the publicity department. In fact, most of the so-called school beauties on the internet are created by speculation. For example, the yellow school beauties from Wuhan University are considered to be deceived. When you are admitted to graduate school and Xiao graduates, I will give you the title of campus beauty, the campus beauty of normal university. Xiao Qiao smiled and hummed, but she reacted the next moment. Husband, what do you mean? You mean not as beautiful as her, right? As she said that, she glanced at Zhou Ziyu. Qiao Bao, don't worry about this, it's not your strength. Li Jie really can't say anything against his will. Xiao Qiao's appearance is really better than Zhou Ziyu's. This is a fact. Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi couldn't help but smile when they looked at this scene. Especially Zhou Ziyu looked at Xiao Qiao like a naughty sister. Xiao Qiao was very dissatisfied. What do you mean this is not my strength? You think I'm not beautiful, right? After a pause, she asked curiously, then what are my strengths? Innocent and cute. Li Jie was a little speechless. How could he praise himself so much? No, I'm serving people on. He especially likes Xiao Qiao's nonsense. Waiting on people on? It's nothing, don't talk nonsense. Are you still being modest? There's really no need to be modest. Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Qiao was unusually embarrassed and her face was a little red. Joe Fox, why are you laughing? You are better than me at. Although they are mortal enemies, they have fought side by side several times, so they know each other well. Zhou Ziyu glanced at Xiao Qiao and said nothing, but the smile on his face grew stronger. Xiao Qiao suddenly became even more angry and said through gritted teeth, Joe Fox. Okay, you two, stop fighting, Li Jie said and hugged Zhou Ziyu. You will know who is better at it? It has been a long time since he experienced you and Qiao serving together. Xiao Yu, darling, do you two want to come too? No, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi both shook their heads and refused. Shen Xinyi was okay, she was just thin-skinned, but Lu Kaiyu really couldn't accept it. Despite her cheerful and generous personality, she is still a bit conservative. Never talk nonsense. After the first episode of Running Man was broadcast online, the number of views exceeded 20 million in 3 hours, 100 million in less than 2 days, 200 million in 5 days, and 300 million in 10 days. Running Man is completely popular, and it's a mess. In terms of performance, Running Man even surpassed the #1 online drama in the country in 2013, unexpectedly. You can imagine how popular it is. The Running Man trend has spread all over the internet, and everyone is discussing this show. The media was shocked, the industry was stunned, and their glasses fell to the floor. Most people in the industry are not optimistic about Cuckoo Entertainment's plan to launch a web variety show. Again, the influence of video platforms is too low now, far less than that of major TV stations. With such a large investment in online comprehensive development, the possibility of repaying the investment is too low. But reality slapped them hard in the face. Cuckoo Entertainment actually turned an online variety show into a popular variety show. This is just like a newcomer's low-budget web drama that has overtaken top-tier productions. It's so unbelievable. A week later, the second episode of Running Man was broadcast, and its popularity rose again, with more than 100 million views in one day. Running Man also truly showed signs of being a national variety show. The popularity of Deng Chao and Wang Baoqiang has skyrocketed, and they have become the most popular male celebrities. After the broadcast of Love Apartment 1, Chen He only showed his prominence, but now he is completely famous. Luan Xiaolin has truly risen to the top, and her popularity has surpassed that of many young talents. Chen Xiao is the one who has benefited the most. Without a masterpiece, he has become a popular niche. Guo Jingfei and Yang Hao are also popular. Guo Jingfei was a little confused. He never expected that an online variety show could be so popular. He originally didn't want to accept a variety show, he just wanted to act, but he was called upon by his boss and had to accept it. As a result, it turned red for no apparent reason. Yang Hao was even more excited, showing off to everyone everywhere. He actually has a chance to become a big star one day. After the popularity of Running Man, outdoor reality shows immediately became popular, and major TV stations and video platforms began to test the program. Suddenly the reality show era arrived early. In addition, the broadcasting rights of Running Man have also become the target of competition for major TV stations. After some competition, Suzhou TV, Zhejiang TV, and Shanghai TV jointly won the rights to broadcast the first season of Running Man at a sky-high price of 160 million. 160 million is said to be a sky-high price, but in fact it is not particularly high. After the first episode of Running Man was broadcast, a certain cocktail brand offered to name the show for 30 million yuan, but Cuckoo Entertainment did not agree. After the second episode was broadcast, the other party's number increased to 90 million. Although the cocktail was terrible, Li Jie reluctantly agreed for the sake of money. This is only the naming rights for online broadcasts. The naming rights for station broadcasts will definitely be higher. Even if there are 3 simultaneous broadcasts, it will cost more than 100 million. One variety show earned 200 to 300 million, and brought a large amount of traffic and users to the video platform. The newly established variety show department became famous in one fell swoop and became one of the company's most profitable departments. Other companies in the industry are even more jealous. It is more profitable to do variety shows than film and television dramas. But it's useless to be jealous. There is no platform for variety shows. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 453. On the morning of August 9, Zhou Ziyu woke up and found Xiao Qiao lying naked beside her, half uncovered by the thin quilt, sleeping soundly. Last night, the two competed again, and the result was still indifferent. The referee Li Jie was acting cunning again. In fact, although Zhou Ziyu didn't show it on the surface earlier, he was not used to this absurdity in his heart. However, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. There are even some. Zhou Ziyu looked at the sleeping Xiao Qiao, her heart moved, and she reached out and spanked her on the butt. Snapped. Xiao Qiao moved and muttered vaguely, "Hubby, don't, always hit me. Go hit that, Joe Fox." Zhou Ziyu showed a hint of amusement on her face and reached out to hit her again. Snapped. "Husband, why are you still?" Xiao Qiao opened her eyes and found that it was Zhou Ziyu, and immediately stopped. "Joe Fox, do you dare to hit me?" As she said that, she rushed forward and struggled with Zhou Ziyu. However, Xiao Qiao's small body was no match for Zhou Ziyu, so he could only rely on sneak attacks to regain the situation. She focused on Zhou Ziyu's chest. After grabbing a few handfuls, Xiao Qiao felt very envious. This figure, this skin, this feel, are so good. Let alone Li Jie, she kind of likes it. The two fought for a while, and although Xiao Qiao did not use any means, he was still pinned down on the big bed by Zhou Ziyu. Under the threat of spanking, Xiao Qiao finally became honest. Okay, I'll let you go. The president is a tough talker, even though he was pressed on the bed and rubbed, he still refused to admit defeat. Zhou Ziyu was amused. This Xiao Qiao is really interesting. No wonder Li Jie always likes her. However, she felt that Xiao Qiao was deliberately acting stupid, especially in front of Li Jie. Zhou Ziyu let go of Xiao Qiao, took the nightgown lying aside and put it on. Xiao Qiao sat up from the bed and looked at Zhou Ziyu, feeling sour and jealous. Fox. This figure and appearance look very improper. And she is very serious. Zhou Ziyu left the bedroom and came to the living room, where he saw Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi already sitting on the sofa waiting. Where is your Mr. Li? Mr. Li has already gone to the company first. Li Jie has been working very hard recently. No matter how late he is at night, he will get up at about 7 o'clock the next day, go to the company at 8 o'clock, and often work overtime until 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening. Zhou Ziyu was really worried about Li Jie's health, and planned to ask Zhou Qing for advice on giving him more medicinal supplements. In addition, those little hooves outside must also be restrained. They cannot be allowed to consume Li Jie's energy too much and affect his work. It also affects her. Just wait for me for a moment. It took Zhou Ziyu more than an hour to finish washing, eating weight loss meals, and putting on makeup. By the time she went out with Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi, it was already past 9 o'clock. It seems a bit bad to be late for work on your first day. But she is the boss's wife. Zhou Ziyu will not hold herself to employee standards like Lu Kaiyu. In the elevator, besides Zhou Ziyu and the others, there was a young woman in her 20s and a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s. The young woman Kuotai was full of aura and was slightly hostile to Zhou Ziyu, her eyes seemed to be looking at a vixen. The middle-aged man had a plump figure and looked like a boss, looking at Zhou Ziyu with a vague look. Now many residents know that there is a particularly beautiful girl living in this building. Ding, the elevator stopped on the 14th floor. The elevator door opened, and Wang Zhaining walked in with Ruan Zheng. When the middle-aged man saw Wang Zhaining, his eyes couldn't help but light up, and then he glanced at Zhou Ziyu subconsciously, with an expression as if he didn't know which one to look at. Wang Zhaining and Zhou Ziyu looked at each other, nodded and said, "Director Zhou." As Li Jie's personal secretary, she already knew that Zhou Ziyu was coming to the company to work. Zhou Ziyu also nodded to Wang Zhaining, "Secretary Wang." The attitude of both of them was very cold and vaguely hostile. The elevator went all the way down, and when it reached the 7th or 8th floor, Wang Zhaining suddenly covered her chest and retched. "Zhaining, what's wrong with you?" Ruan Jing quickly asked with concern. Wang Zhaining retched twice more, waved her hands and said, "It's okay, I just feel a little nauseous." Zhou Ziyu on the side was shocked, and even his face changed. Could she be? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Just when Zhou Ziyu was in confusion, Wang Zhaining said softly, "I don't know why, but I always feel like I have a bad appetite recently." The young woman glanced at her and suddenly said, "Are you pregnant?" When the elevator arrived at the underground parking lot, Wang Zhaining motioned to Zhou Ziyu to let her go first. Zhou Ziyu glanced at the other party and walked out of the elevator with Lu Ji and Lu Yingqi first. She was confused just now because she was concerned. When she calmed down and thought about it, the other party was probably trying to scare her. Especially that superfluous sentence. However, we really can't let Li Jie continue to act like this. How can it be okay to not take any defensive measures when you are with anyone? If this continues, sooner or later someone will die, and the trouble will be big. and if no one is killed, the trouble will be even greater. Ruanjing glanced at Wang Zhaining with concern. Zhaining, how about we go to the hospital for a checkup? Just like the young woman, she also suspected that Wang Zhaining was pregnant. Without taking any defensive measures, it is completely normal to cause death. As for how Ruanjing knew, Li Jie and Wang Zhaining did not take any defensive measures. Of course, it's because of the sensitivity of being a bodyguard, so I often check the trash cans and so on. Wang Zhaining looked away from Zhou Ziu's retreating back. Xiaojing, what did you say? Zhaining, let's go to the hospital for a checkup. Wang Zhaining looked at Ruanjing and couldn't help but smile. I'm not pregnant, I just lied to her. Zhou Ziu guessed right, Wang Zhaining was deliberately scaring her just now. Wang Zhaining asked herself that she had never offended Zhou Ziu, but the other party always deliberately targeted her and ruined her chances of getting along with Li Jie many times. Anyone who stops her from being with Li Jie is her enemy, no matter who the other person is. With this in mind, Wang Zhaining said to Ruanjing, Xiaojing, let's go. However, before she could finish her words, she suddenly started retching again. Ruanjing looked at Wang Zhaining with a strange expression. Why is she still addicted to acting? Noticing Ruanjing's expression, Wang Zhaining explained, I feel really sick. Zhaining, maybe you are really pregnant, Ruanjing joked with a smile. Wang Zhaining was stunned after hearing this. She didn't tell lies in the elevator before, but she really has a bad appetite these days, and her relatives have also been postponed and haven't come yet. Could it be that I really? She felt a little overwhelmed at first, and then turned into excitement and joy. Wang Zhaining really never thought of it so early. However, this seems good, she can be the first to give it to Li Jie. Xiaojing, let's go to the hospital. Seeing Wang Zhaining walking away, Ruanjing came to her senses and quickly followed. Something big is going to happen. Zhou Ziu looked at the two cars in front of him, a Lamborghini Bat LP640 and a Mercedes-Benz G500. After thinking about it for a while, he decided to drive a Mercedes-Benz. It's not appropriate to drive a sports car to work at the company. This black Mercedes-Benz G500 was newly bought for her by Li Jie. One time Zhou Ziu accidentally said in bed that off-road vehicles were cool, and the next day Li Jie took her to the Ford store to choose a car. Well, it was really unintentional. It was definitely not because she was a little envious of Xiao Jiao's Land Rover. Thinking of the Land Rover parked in the villa garage gathering dust, Zhou Ziu shook her head inwardly. It would be a waste for Li Jie to buy so many good cars for Xiao Jiao. She doesn't drive much at all. Hey, my head hurts so much. After checking the answers to the mock test paper, Xiao Jiao scratched his hair with a headache. Now she has entered the second round of review. There are only 5 months left before the postgraduate examination, but her grades have not improved much. Xiao Jiao had lied to Li Jie that he would get into graduate school by strength without his help. Is she going to humiliate herself and admit her mistake too? Yeah, why did you lose your hair again? Xiao Jiao looked at the 2 long hairs in his hand and suddenly became anxious. Maybe because of the pressure of taking the postgraduate entrance examination, she has been losing hair recently. Xiao Jiao quickly picked up the mirror on the table and took a look. Whether it was an illusion or not, she felt that the hair on her forehead was thinning. There are still 5 months left before the postgraduate entrance examination. If she goes on like this, she won't really be bald, right? That guy Li Jie will definitely dislike her by then. Still studying for a PhD? Xiao Jiao decided that if Li Jie joked about letting her study for a PhD again, she would fight him tooth and nail and bite him to death. It's better to relax. You can fail the postgraduate entrance examination, but you must not be bald. There are so many mistresses, fifths and sixths, waiting to grab her spot. Xiao Jiao took out a 32-carat photo. This is a photo of Zhou Ziu, a very sexy pajama photo. Xiao Jiao posted the photo on the dartboard and started throwing darts at the photo. While she was throwing darts, she was chanting, "Damn Joe Fox, damn Joe Fox." This is Xiao Jiao's way of decompressing himself during the postgraduate entrance examination, and venting his anger on Joe Fox. When she gets tired and irritable from reviewing, she will play Zazhu Fox for a while, which feels very relaxing and enjoyable. Thinking of being bullied by Zhou Huhu again in the morning, Xiao Jiao threw a dart angrily and hit the photo. "Damn Joe Fox, I'll stab you to death." The real President Aq is. When arriving at Kudong Group, Zhou Ziyu did not go directly to join the company, but first came to the president's office. "Who are you?" Seeing Zhou Ziyu knocking on the door and walking in, the secretaries Zhang Shan, Lu Yi, and Zhang Wenjun all looked surprised. "This girl is too pretty." Lu Kaiu stood up with a smile. "Tsuyu, you're here." Zhuang Qian also stood up and said, "Tsuyu." Very few people in the group knew about Zhou Ziyu's existence, but Zhuang Qian, Li Zhe's first secretary, was one of the few insiders. Lu Kaiu turned around and said to everyone, "Let me introduce you to everyone. This is Zhou Ziyu, Miss Zhou, the new artist director." Zhuang Qian added, "Ms. Zhou is also a well-known online writer. You should all know a smile is charming, right? This is Miss Zhou's masterpiece." "Miss Zhou, are you Chen Yu?" Zhang Shan said with some surprise. "I particularly like your book, want to see you. When Zhou Ziyu, as a novel author, participated in the casting and filming of A Little Smile is Alluring, Zhang Shan, Lu Yi, and Zhang Wenjun had not yet joined the job, but they had all heard of it, and some people had even watched Chen Yu, Zhou Ziyu, photo. Now when they heard what Zhuang Qian said, they immediately reacted. "Tsuyu, you're here." Li Zhe walked out of the inner office. "Mr. Li, I need you to take more care of me in the future." Zhou Ziyu acted a little distant. Li Zhe looked at her and felt funny. His little lover was quite good at pretending. With this in mind, he turned to Zhuang Qian and said, "Zhuang Qian, accompany Tsuyu to the artist management department." Unlike Zhang Shan, who had a fan complex, Zhang Wenjun and the other female secretaries looked back and forth at Zhou Ziyu and Li Zhe, vaguely guessing something. Their boss is really philanthropic. Beautiful secretaries, Lu Kaiu, Wang Zhaining, beautiful writers, Zhou Ziyu, female celebrities, Lu Yufei, Lu Enzilan, internet celebrities, Sun Wanning, female students, Xiao Jiao, Shen Xinyi, I like them all. Gossip hurts people. Li Zhe obviously had nothing to do with Sun Wanning, but he took the blame for nothing. It can only be said that the scumbag Feng Ping was killed. Artist Management Department Office Area. "This is Zhou Ziyu, Director Zhou, everyone applauds and welcomes you." Zhuang Qian introduced in public. Ba bang bang, everyone in the office clapped and looked at Zhou Ziyu with a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and speculation. Not only is the director this week extremely beautiful, but he can also let Zhuang Qian, the first secretary, take the stage in person, so he must have a lot of background. After a brief greeting with his colleagues, Zhou Ziyu returned to his office. The position of director of the artist agency department is at the 5th administrative level, second only to the department manager, and enjoys the treatment of deputy manager. It belongs to the middle and senior management of the group. Sitting down in front of the office, Zhou Ziyu first looked at the information of the artist management department. Although her main purpose in coming to this department is to restrain the little stars and anchors so that they don't always want to cling to and seduce the boss. But Zhou Ziyu also wanted to do something real and prove his ability to Li Zhe. After spending more than half an hour briefly reading the information, Zhou Ziyu had a general understanding of the situation in the artist management department. The artist management department has several departments in charge, which are responsible for managing the artists and anchors of subsidiaries such as Cuckoo Entertainment, Kudong Video, and Happy Twist. In addition, Yang Function's Jiaxing Studio and Lu Yufi's Studio are affiliated and are not considered subsidiaries of Kudong Group. Therefore, their artists are not managed by the Artist Management Department. However, Lu Yufi's studio only has her own artist, and she has no plans to sign artists and train them. However, Yang Function seems to be quite ambitious. Not long after the studio was established, he signed two newcomers, one named Shu Sudan and the other named Leng Bie. This Jiaxing studio is a loophole that cannot be restrained. Zhou Ziyu thought so, and she picked up the artist's photo. After taking a look at Lengba's photo, she put it aside. This girl's exotic style is too obvious, and Li Jie won't like this type. On the contrary, this Shu Sudan is in line with his aesthetics. She is delicate, sweet, charming, and lovable just by looking at her. There are too many targets that need to be vigilant and guarded against. Zhou Ziyu sighed softly in his heart and put Shu Sudan's photo aside. Suddenly, she thought of a question. Could it be that Li Jie wanted to work in the entertainment industry just to facilitate him? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 454. Dong dong, someone knocked on the door. Please come in. A pretty girl about 20 years old wearing professional attire, holding a stack of documents, pushed the door open and walked in. Director Zhou, here are the detailed information of all the artists. Zhou Ziyu smiled and said to the girl, okay, let it go. This girl is a new intern from the Normal University, her name is Shen Na, and she was arranged to be Zhou Ziyu's assistant. Shen Na looked at Zhou Ziyu without any trace. She had already heard about the famous school beauty and beautiful writer. Unexpectedly, the other party was the new artist director. Even though Zhou Ziyu is a well-known internet celebrity writer, like her, she is just a student who has not yet graduated. How could she become a senior executive of a large group all of a sudden? It seems that just as the rumors said, the other boyfriend's background is not simple. Director Zhou, if nothing happens, I'll go out first. Wait a minute, Zhou Ziyu called to the other party. I saw the information said that our department will also establish a new department in charge. Yes, Cuckoo Entertainment will set up a new online drama department, so our department will also set up a corresponding artist department, Chen Na explained. After the variety show department, Cuckoo Entertainment has recently established a new online drama department. Nowadays, online short dramas are becoming more and more popular. Many video platforms have established online drama production departments. As a pioneer in online drama production, Kudong Group cannot lag behind. Although the online drama department has not yet been officially established, the first online drama has been confirmed, which is unexpectedly. When Kukeo goes online, popular variety shows, film and television dramas such as Running Man, Never Expected, Moon Hotel, 33 Days of Love, Love for 1,000 Years, etc. will all be available for Kukeo. Advertise. The artists and anchors of Kudong Group will also help the platform to promote the platform, launching a huge publicity offensive. Penguin Company has QQ to attract traffic, and Kudong Group also has film and television media to attract traffic. Zhou Ziyu nodded after hearing this and stood up. Xiao Na, please accompany me to the artist training base. She planned to spend a few days meeting all the artists and anchors under the group. Zhou Ziyu currently only has a rough guess as to which of them is the restless little fairy. However, based on who benefited the most and who was the most suspicious, she selected a few key suspects. Xiao Zhou still has the nerve to call others goblins, but she is more like a goblin than anyone else. Charming, enchanting, not like a good family, that's what I'm talking about. As early as when Cuckoo Entertainment was first established, It organized extra training classes to train newcomers such as Luan Xiaolin, Wang Haining, and Zhao Yuhuan. Later, Li Jie simply established a long-term artist training base, Cuckoo Star Training Camp. This is currently the most professional artist training institution in China, covering a streamlined and standardized star-making system from artist recruitment, training, assessment to packaging and promotion. There are vocal, physical, dance, and performance training provided by professional teachers from South Korea and Shanghai Opera, as well as first-class artist training and practice hardware facilities such as small theaters, studios, recording studios, and dance studios. In addition, this artist training class not only trains artists and anchors under the Kudong Group, but also recruits students from outside, but the tuition is very expensive. But if you can graduate from this training class and perform well, you can get the resources to debut. In order to obtain educational resources nearby, training is basically not located near the company, but at the theater. After arriving at the training base, Zhou Ziyu took Shen Na around and started to visit, accompanied by the person in charge. This training class has many majors, including celebrity and idol training classes, short-term performance training classes, internet celebrity anchor training classes, and art exam film and television performance training classes. The most expensive is the celebrity and idol training class, which requires full-time training for 2 years, and the tuition alone costs 200,000 to 300,000 yuan. The cheapest one is the Internet Celebrity Anchor Training course, which only takes 1 month and costs more than 10,000. Coming to the dance room, Zhou Ziyu looked inside and saw a dozen girls practicing dance under the guidance of the teacher. The eldest is 18 or 19 years old, and the youngest is only 14 or 15. These girls are all students in celebrity and idol training classes. However, only 5 or 6 of the girls are trainees signed by Cuckoo Entertainment, and the rest are students who study at their own expense. Of course, this does not mean that the company's artists are completely free, but compared to foreign students, their tuition fees are much cheaper, and they can still pay for it. The main purpose of recruiting foreign students is to generate income. Zhou Ziyu's eyes fell on a petite and slender little girl who was 14 or 15 years old. She had read the information and knew that this little girl was called Xiaoju, and Li Jie seemed to be very optimistic about her. But she looked like an ordinary little girl, and I didn't find anything special about her. Noticing Zhou Ziyu's gaze, the middle-aged woman on the side explained in charge, "This Xiaoju usually trains very hard." Zhou Ziyu listened and nodded, "Director Han, let's go look elsewhere." The group left the dance studio and went to the performance training room. Just in time for the get out of class to end, a group of young men and women walked out of the multimedia classroom. Seeing Director Han, they all greeted, "Teacher Han." Then she looked at Zhou Ziyu curiously and guessed her identity, and the boys all looked surprised. Manager Han nodded to them and introduced, "This is the company's new artist director, Director Zhou." When these boys and girls heard this, many of their eyes lit up and they all said enthusiastically, "Hello, Director Zhou." Zhou Ziyu looked at them, compared them with the information he had read, and recognized some of them, including Lu Mengmeng, Zhang Ziwan, Zhao Minjiao, Zhao Jinjia, Cao Qian, Chen Xian, Zhang Yu, etc. Finally, she set her sights on Lu Yufei, who walked out of the classroom. Lu Yufei was stunned for a moment when she saw Zhou Ziyu, then smiled and said, "Hello, Director Zhou." Hotel of the Moon just wrapped up at the end of last month, and she was taking a break, so she took advantage of her free time to come here to give a lecture. This is also one of the selling points of the training class. Popular celebrities come to give lectures and impart performance experience. Artists from the company such as Lu Yufei, Yang Fengxian, and Shen Teng will come here to teach, at least 3 classes a year. Zhou Ziyu also smiled and said, "Yufei, are you here to give a lecture?" Seeing Lu Yufei, she remembered Wang Haining she met in the morning. In the crowd, Zhang Yu looked at Zhou Ziyu and Lu Yufei who were pretending to be polite, and sighed in his heart. It would be great if she were Zhou roommate. Xiao Qiao is so disappointing. The news that Cuckoo Entertainment is setting up an online drama production department has spread throughout the group. Different from regular film and television dramas, the threshold for video short dramas is extremely low. Even amateur actors can be acted by ordinary people. However, even slightly famous artists will not look down on such crude and poorly made funny short dramas. Many internet celebrities and anchors felt that an opportunity had come, and came here to practice their acting skills in preparation for the audition. In this era, the status of internet celebrities is very low and cannot be compared with celebrities and actors. This leads to internet celebrities wanting to enter the entertainment industry. After visiting the artist training base, Zhou Ziyu had a meal with Zhao Minjiao, Zhao Jinjia, and Cao Qian and reminisced about old times. When they returned to the company, it was already 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. While taking the elevator, she happened to bump into Zhang Wenjun from the CEO's office, and Zhou Ziyu got unexpected news. "You said Secretary Wang asked for leave." Yes, Zhang Wenjun had a pleasant smile on his face and was in a good mood. Wang's Haining asked for leave, so she temporarily acted as Li Zhe's personal secretary. She wished that the other party could take a long leave. Why did she ask for leave? "I heard that I'm feeling a little unwell." Physical discomfort? Zhou Ziyu's heart suddenly flashed, and she couldn't help but think of Wang's Haining's retching scene before. It's impossible. She, Xiao Qiao and others have been together with Li Zhe for so long, and no one has gotten pregnant. How long has Wang's Haining been with him? It's only a little more than half a year. This time is not short. Director Zhou, Assistant Chen Na called her. Zhou Ziyu came back to her senses and took a look, only to find that the elevator had reached the floor where the artist management department was located. Back in the office, Zhou Ziyu read the information for a while, but felt uneasy. She thought for a while, took out her cell phone and called Ruanjing. A few minutes later, Zhou Ziyu hung up the phone with a solemn expression. Ruanjing's tone is wrong. Could it be that Wang's Haining really? Zhou Ziyu felt extremely uneasy. Why did she work hard for so long but still get nothing? Why is Wang's Haining so lucky? Thinking like this, Zhou Ziyu thought of that unlucky dream again. At night, Beijinwan Mansion. Li Zhe had dinner with Xiao Qiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and Bai Wei. Xiao Qiao brought Bai Wei over again. Ever since Bai Wei admitted in public that she had a crush on Li Zhe during the Chinese New Year last year, the relationship between the two has become somewhat subtle. Li Zhe looked away from Bai Wei and looked at Zhou Ziyu. "Xiao, are you worried about something?" Zhou Ziyu looked restless tonight. He had never seen her like this before. "No," Zhou Ziyu smiled. However, there was a hint of reluctance in her smile, and even Xiao Qiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi saw that something was wrong and looked at her twice. Seeing that Zhou Ziyu was unwilling to say anything, Li Zhe didn't ask any more questions and put down his chopsticks after taking 2 more bites of the food. "You guys eat slowly, I'm going to the study first." After looking at Li Zhe's back, Xiao Qiao also put down his chopsticks and said, "I won't eat either." She was going to eat secretly. No, she was going to the study to accompany Li Zhe. "Xiao Qiao, wait a moment," Zhou Ziyu stopped her. "What are you doing?" Xiao Qiao said easily. Zhou Ziyu did not speak, but turned to look at Bai Wei. Bai Wei was stunned for a moment, then realized what she was doing and put down her chopsticks. "Xiao Qiao, I'm going back to the room first." Xiao Qiao looked at Bai Wei's leaving back and looked away. "Joe Fox, what exactly are you going to say? Can you say it now?" Zhou Ziyu still didn't speak in a hurry, and looked at the faces of Xiao Qiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi one by one, and then said, "Have you ever thought about what you would do if someone outside had it first?" "What's there?" Xiao Qiao was stunned and asked subconsciously. However, she reacted immediately. Her expression changed drastically, and she almost jumped up. What did you say, Joe Fox? Who has it? Do you know anything? The expressions of Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi also changed, and their eyes were fixed on Zhou Ziyu. In the study, Li Jie sat in front of the computer and watched the news. Since the beginning of this year, 360 and Penguin have been fighting. First, Penguin extended its tentacles into the security software industry and created a QQ doctor. As the overlord of the security software industry, 360 quickly realized the threat of QQ doctor and responded quickly. In addition, Penguin rushed into battle and QQ doctor was immature. The first confrontation ended with 360 temporarily winning. Now the battle between the two sides has reached the second stage. Penguin learned from the failure and quietly upgraded QQ Doctor to a computer manager, which covered all the mainstream functions of security guard, catching 360 by surprise. Li Jie knew that this 3Q war had not really reached its climax yet. In the end, the two sides would fight to the death, either you die or I live. However, even if the 3Q war breaks out completely, it is unrealistic to expect 360 to completely contain the Penguins. Because the strength of 360 and Penguin is not equal at all, if it were not for the intervention of the upper level, 360 would definitely be completely killed. In fact, 360 was forced to fight to the death. It's not that 360 never thought of bowing its head and admitting defeat, but Penguin simply didn't accept it. Today's Penguins are the real dominating geese, not the gift money goose that everyone makes money with. Of course, Penguin is domineering, but 360 is not a kind person either. Li Jie has been paying attention to the 3Q war between the two sides. Once the two sides completely start the war, it will be the time when Kukeo will be released. Even if 360 can only contain part of Penguin's energy, Kudong Group will have a better chance of winning. A small advantage in the early stage may become the key to victory or defeat in the later stage. There was a soap opera playing on the TV, but Wang Zhaining's attention was not on the TV, but sitting on the sofa and giggling. She was so lucky that she actually. So what if Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu arrive first? It's not like she got the upper hand. Especially that Zhou Ziyu, if he learned the news, his expression would definitely be very beautiful. Wang Zhaining picked up the phone on the coffee table and was about to call Li Jie. But suddenly, she stopped again. No, let's wait until tomorrow to tell him in person. Ruan Jing looked at Wang Zhaining and shook her head in her heart. She had been giggling since her morning checkup at the hospital. You said Wang Zhaining is pregnant. Xiao Jiao stared at Zhou Ziyu with disbelief as if she had been struck by lightning. I'm just saying it's possible. Seeing Xiao Jiao's anxiety, Zhou Ziyu calmed down. Maybe, Xiao Jiao knew very well that since Zhou Ziyu said that, he must have sensed something. If she is really pregnant, what should we do? Shen Xinyi said softly. Zhou Ziyu glanced at Shen Xin. This Shen Guiguai was simple on the surface, but in fact he was very thoughtful. Xinyi is right. What matters is what we should do. Even if this is a false alarm, if Li Jie keeps messing around like this, something will happen sooner or later. You don't want to see anyone come in again, do you? Yes, we can't let that guy Li Jie mess around again. Xiao Jiao still had luck in his heart. She and Li Jie had been together for 3 years, but still found nothing. How could that Wang Zhaining be pregnant? Zhou Ziyu turned to look at Lu Kaiyu again. Kaiyu, what do you think? Lu Kaiyu hesitated. The company is in a critical period recently. Okay, what do you think we should do? Xiao Jiao and the four of them looked at each other and reached an agreement at this moment. They put aside their disputes and started working together. No, they agreed to talk to the outside world. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 455. Jiao Bao, Xiao Yu, Guai Guai, why are you here together? Li Jie was a little surprised to see them running over together. They don't respect martial ethics and want to beat him up together, right? It would be great. Husband, we have something to tell you. Xiao Jiao looked at him seriously and said. Seeing Xiao Jiao suddenly becoming serious, Li Jie was really a little uncomfortable with it. Looking at Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi, who also had serious faces, he was even more confused. Did something really happen? Let's go to the bed, and talk on the couch. This scumbag almost spilled the beans and exposed his little thoughts. This guy always wants to try a 5-player game, but he doesn't care whether he can handle it or not. Li Jie got up and came to the sofa beside him, and sat down with Xiao Jiao and the others. Tell me, what's the matter with you? Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, and Shen Xinyi looked at each other, but no one spoke. Zhou Ziyu said to Xiao Jiao, please tell me. You better say it. After suffering losses many times, Xiao Jiao became wiser and refused to stand out again. However, the foreign enemies are about to come, but the 4 of them still can't work together and have their own thoughts. It's no wonder that Li Jie, a scumbag, becomes more and more indulgent. Okay, I said. Zhou Ziyu finally understood that Xiao Jiao and the others could not be counted on. Husband, you said before that whoever gets it first among the 4 of us will get the certificate first, right? Yes, what's wrong? Li Jie looked calm on the surface, but felt a little guilty in his heart. On the surface, this guy said he wanted Xiao Jiao and the others to compete fairly, but secretly he was trying to be biased. Tell Xiao Jiao that she is her favorite. Focus on resources and focus on care for Zhou Ziyu. Let Lu Kaiyu work overtime in the company. Under the guise of something like that, he bullied Shen Xinyi so hard that even good girls were ruined by him. Playing both sides, taking advantage of everything, this guy is having a great time. In fact, Li Jie also had some scruples at first, because he rarely messed around during save times. But later he found out that nothing happened to Xiao Jiao and the others, so he became less and less worried. Husband, have you ever thought about what you would do if someone else had it first? Zhou Ziyu deliberately emphasized the word other. Impossible, Li Jie retorted subconsciously. How is it impossible? If you act so randomly, something will happen sooner or later, Xiao Jiao said angrily. She has been dissatisfied with Li Jie's absurdity for a long time. Husband, don't you think there's a problem? Shen Xinyi said. It was not that Shen Xian had never thought about getting there first, so she put down her face and satisfied Li Jie's various unreasonable demands. As a result, he was bullied for nothing. Yes, there is probably something wrong with your health. After working hard for 3 years, she still got nothing. Xiao Jiao doubted that there was something really wrong with Li Jie's health. Honey, how about we go to the hospital for a checkup together? Zhou Ziyu was also lucky and did not want to believe that Wang Haining was really pregnant. More importantly, she still suspected that there was something wrong with Li Jie's health. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her and Xiao Jiao to get nothing after 2 or 3 years. What are you checking for? Don't you all have personal experience of whether there is something wrong with my body? Li Jie looked disapproving. On the surface, this guy kept his illness under wraps, but in fact he had already gone to the hospital for a checkup and confirmed that there was nothing wrong with his body, so he was so calm. My personal experience. My personal experience is that even if you can't do it, I just want a child, and you can't even meet these requirements. When Li Jie heard this, his face turned dark. This Xiao Jiao is really lawless and dares to say nonsense. But Xiao Jiao still muttered in a low voice, there must be something wrong with your body, like an animal. I've checked it out a long time ago, and the doctors have said that it's been too long. Hey, what are you doing? Li Jie grabbed Xiao Jiao, put her on his lap, and spanked her little buttocks. Xiao Jiao yelled a few words and soon gave in. You hit me again, husband, I was wrong. I will never say you can't do it again. Li Jie was about to stop, but after hearing what she said, he immediately struck harder. Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi looked at each other and wanted to laugh. They were all used to Xiao Jiao's provocations and being dealt with. In fact, Li Jie was not unaware of the problem, as Xiao Jiao and the four of them had been finding nothing. It is not uncommon for both men and women to have no physical problems, but to achieve nothing for many years. But if there are one man and many women, this is very abnormal. Li Jie can only attribute this to the influence of rebirth. He even vaguely felt that if he didn't want to, Xiao Jiao and the others wouldn't be pregnant. That's right, Li Jie doesn't want Xiao Jiao and the others to have children too early. They are still very young and should play for a few more years. Besides, these few years are a critical period for his career, and he is not suitable for upgrading to become a baby daddy. This guy talks about doing business, but in fact he is just playing. Li Jie really never thought that he could have cheats. But this plug-in is of little use. It would be great if there was a plug-in to enhance physical fitness. He can take care of a few more beautiful girls and save them from the hardships of life. This scumbag really thinks too much and even cheats. Where did he get the cheats? Li Jie thought this, but continued to teach Xiao Jiao a lesson. But Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi just watched the show, and no one stood up to plead for mercy. After Li Jie had tidied up Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu said, "Honey, what if someone else had it first, what should I do?" "Don't worry, no matter what happens, your status in my heart will never change." Li Jie does not have any feudal ideas such as favoring sons over daughters, children being more important than wives, and the eldest son being the eldest grandson. In his case, there is no such thing as mother being more valuable than son, only son being more valuable than mother. After a pause, he added, "In this way, I will try not to mess around in the future." "What do you mean by trying your best?" Xiao Jiao was very dissatisfied with Li Jie's perfunctory attitude. Not only was she dissatisfied, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi were also dissatisfied. Li Jie smiled, changed the subject and said, "Okay, don't you just want children? We can just work harder. What's the use of trying hard?" "You." Xiao Jiao muttered in a low voice, but noticed Li Jie's unkind eyes and immediately shut up. She subconsciously touched the spanked butt. Li Jie looked amused, stretched out his hand and hit her again. "Pa. Ah, why did you hit me again?" "I didn't say anything." Xiao Jiao covered her butt, a little anxious. "If you don't say it with your mouth, you won't be able to slander it in your heart." Li Jie turned to look at Zhou Ziyu and the others and joked, "How about we come together tonight?" Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi looked at each other, but no one objected. Li Jie was stunned for a moment, feeling surprised and surprised at the same time. After more than 2 years, is his little wish finally coming true? "It's getting late, let's go back to the room," Li Jie said and stood up. "Isn't it early? It's not even 9 p.m. yet. This guy can't wait." Xiao Jiao and the others also stood up and followed Li Jie out of the study. Only Lu Kaiyu stood there and hesitated for a while. It wasn't until Li Jie and Xiao Jiao had gone far that she followed them. She really didn't want to participate in this ridiculous behavior. It was clearly agreed that they were here to restrain Li Jie, so why did they become indulgent with him? Forget it, she would paddle in a moment and let Li Jie, Xiao Jiao, and the others go about their mischief. The next day, Li Jie woke up and found that Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi were no longer there. He sat up from the bed and looked at the clock on the wall. "Sure enough, I got up late, after 9 o'clock. Thinking of the mess that happened last night, Li Jie shook his head in his heart. There are too many women, and it's just hard work and delays in starting a career. Thinking this, he rubbed his waist. It's okay to experience it once. You can't be so indulgent in the future. You still have to concentrate on your career. After I brought this stuff up, I immediately became tougher in my speech. Li Jie got dressed and came to the living room, where he saw Xiao Qiao sitting at the dining table eating alone. Where are they? Zhou Fox and Lu Changji have both gone to the company, and Shen Fudi has gone to the store, boutique. You're the only one with nothing to do. What do you mean I'm just doing nothing? Xiao Qiao stopped doing it as soon as he heard it. I have to review for the postgraduate entrance examination. It's very hard, okay. After a pause, she said with a sly smile, husband, we have decided to accompany you together again tonight. When Li Jie heard this, he couldn't help coughing twice. Let's forget it. Don't work too hard. Husband, you're not afraid anymore, are you? Do you want to be beaten again? Humph, you know how to threaten people, you think I will give in? It's impossible. Husband, stop fighting, I know I was wrong. If Xiao Qiao doesn't fight for a day, he will go to the house to uncover the tiles. By the time Li Jie arrived at the company, it was already past 10 o'clock. Seeing him coming, Zhuang Qian, Zheng Shan, Lu Kaiyu, and Bai Wei all stood up. Mr. Li, you are here. Li Jie nodded and motioned for them all to sit down. Zhuang Qian said, Manager Zhang Jingxian, just called and said that she has something to see you. Okay, I get it. After Li Jie finished speaking, he walked into the inner office. Zhang Wenjun looked at Li Jie's back with complicated thoughts. She only worked as a temporary private secretary for one day, and Wang Haining came early this morning. It would be great if the other party could take a few more days off. Arriving at the inner office, Li Jie found Wang Haining sitting in front of his desk, holding his chin in one hand and covering his lower abdomen in a daze, with an inexplicable smile on his lips. She was wearing a slightly conservative secretary uniform today, and she did not wear high heels on her feet, but a pair of flat leather shoes. What are you thinking about? Wang Haining came back to her senses and saw that it was Li Jie who had arrived. Her pretty face showed unconcealable joy. Brother Jie, you are here. Li Jie asked with a smile, you are in such a good mood. Did something good happen to you? Ever since Wang Haining's mother passed away, he had never seen her so happy. Wang Haining smiled and said, well, there is a good thing. It's still a good thing for the two of us. Li Jie was really curious, what's the good thing? Wang Haining did not say anything directly, but put her head over and whispered something in his ear. Li Jie was stunned when he heard this. What did you say? You have it? Sure. I went to the hospital for a checkup yesterday, and the doctor confirmed that I was pregnant. Is that possible? Li Jie was still a little unbelievable. He had never thought that Wang Haining would be pregnant so early. How could she be pregnant? As for whether this child is his, there is no doubt about this. That means, he doesn't have anything wrong with him. If he hadn't died, it would have been normal for Wang Haining to become pregnant. Coveted for novelty, he has bullied her a lot in the past 6 months. Li Jie also understood why Xiao Qiao and the others were suddenly so abnormal last night. They must have noticed something. Brother Jie, don't you want this child? Seeing that Li Jie was silent, Wang Haining couldn't help but worry. If you really don't want to have a child too early, then I will. She wanted to abort the child, but she couldn't bear to say it, and her beautiful eyes were a little red. What are you thinking about? How could I not want our child? Li Jie came back to his senses, smiled and hugged her into his arms. After a pause, he added, it's good to have a baby early. Now that you are young, your body will recover quickly. Wang Haining felt relieved after hearing what he said. Li Jie didn't want to have a child too early, but he had already been mentally prepared. Just like Xiao Qiao's own mistake that time. As a man, you must be responsible and cannot shirk your responsibilities. It's just that Xiao Qiao and the others are not easy to comfort. If they know that Wang Haining is really pregnant, they will definitely explode. However, I can't really blame him for this. He gave them so many opportunities, but they couldn't seize them. Wang Zhining raised her head from Li Jie and her eyes fell on his face. She thought Li Jie would be happy after telling him about the pregnancy. But he didn't seem very happy. Outside offices, Lu Kaiyu was a little uneasy, looking at the closed, back, office door from time to time. Wang Zhining felt very strange today. She couldn't hide the joy in her eyes, and she suddenly changed to wearing flat shoes. All signs pointed to the possibility that she was pregnant. Why is the other party so lucky? Lu Kaiyu couldn't help but feel jealous of Wang Zhining. In fact, Lu Kaiyu is not the kind of girl who likes to be jealous of others, but when it comes to Li Jie and her position, she really can't be generous. She looked away from the office door, picked up the phone on the table, and sent a message to Zhou Ziyu. When Zhou Ziyu received the message from Lu Kaiyu, she was talking to Zhao Xiaodao. There are quite a lot of artists under Kudong Group now, almost 30 or 40 people. Among these artists, Zhao Xiaodao is the one Zhou Ziyu is more optimistic about. Although Zhao Xiaodao is still just a small actor now, she is optimistic about the other party's potential. As for Lu Yufei, Luan Xiaolin, Zhao Yuhuan, and Nini who are currently in the spotlight, they are all love rivals and targets of suspicion. And that Yang Fengxian is also an ambitious and restless master. After discovering that Wang Zhining might be pregnant, Zhou Ziyu paid more attention to the position of artist director. If you want to sit in that position and hold it firmly, you must collect and discipline those little goblins outside. Those who are obedient will be given a sweet treat, and those who are disobedient will be taught a lesson. Beep, the phone on the table suddenly vibrated. Zhou Ziyu picked up the phone and took a look, her expression changed slightly. Sure enough, that Wang Zhining is really pregnant. She completely dismissed the chance. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 456. At night, Beijinwan Mansion. The atmosphere at the dinner table was a bit solemn, Xiao Jiao was cold and silent, Zhou Ziyu was no longer gentle and considerate, Lu Kaiyu ate silently, and Shen Xian looked like she had no appetite. Li Jie looked at their appearance, sighed softly in his heart, and put down his chopsticks. It seemed that they had guessed something and collectively got into trouble with him. What happened to you tonight? What happened to us? Then you should ask yourself, what are you hiding from us? Xiao Jiao said coldly. Zhou Ziyu sighed softly and put down her chopsticks. Hubby, is she really pregnant? When Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and others heard this, they all stared at Li Jie. Facing their gazes, Li Jie nodded hesitantly, yes, she is really pregnant. This matter cannot be concealed or concealed, not to mention that they should have already guessed it. After hearing Li Jie's personal admission, the expressions of Xiao Jiao, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi all changed immediately. Xiao Jiao was even more furious and her eyes were red. This scumbag really had a child with someone else first. Li Jie seemed to have difficulty speaking and said hesitantly, Jiao Bao, Xiao Yu, Guai, I have something to discuss with you. No need to discuss, I don't agree. Zhou Ziyu's pretty face also turned cold, revealing a chill. Li Jie couldn't help but sigh, I haven't said what it is yet. What else can happen? Do you want Wang Zhining to move in? Don't even think about it, Xiao Jiao said coldly. I don't agree either, Shen Xinyi also said. Lu Kaiyu said nothing, but her expression said everything. She doesn't agree either. Zhou Ziyu softened her expression and said, husband, if you are pregnant, you can move in. What will happen if someone gets pregnant again in the future? I'm not really asking her to move here, I'm just staying here temporarily during her pregnancy. Li Jie wanted Wang Zhining to move here temporarily, just for the convenience of taking care of him. The company was in a critical period, and he really didn't have time to rush around. Not for the time being, Xiao Jiao's emotions completely exploded, and his voice was choked with sobs. Li Jie, let me tell you, if you dare to let that Wang's Haining move in, I will move out. After saying that, she stood up suddenly and left. Honey, I'm going back to the room too. Shen Xin followed. Honey, please eat slowly. Zhou Ziyu also stood up. Li Jie said that he would only let Wang's Haining move here temporarily to raise the baby. But it is easy to move in, but it is difficult to ask the other party to move out. Forget about other things, she will never give in on this matter. Li Jie looked at Lu Kaiyu, who was the only one left. Xiao Yu, you're not leaving too, are you? Husband, I can't help you this time either. After saying that, Lu Kaiyu also left. Li Jie looked at the empty living room and couldn't help but sigh again. Is this considered a betrayal of all relatives? No wonder Xiao Jiao and the others were in a mood, it was because he was too indulgent and really hurt their hearts. What to do? I can only comfort them one by one. Li Jie first came to Xiao Jiao's door. Jiao Bao, please open the door and let's have a chat. Who is talking to you? You bastard actually had a child with someone else, you scumbag, a big pig's hooves. After standing outside the door for more than half an hour, seeing that Xiao Jiao really didn't know how to open the door, Li Jie went to Zhou Ziyu's side again. Xiao, please open the door. Husband, let's think about it carefully. Alas, this little lover of his is no longer understanding. Who said in the first place that they would be satisfied just being lovers? What a woman's mouth, what a liar. The more beautiful a woman is, the more likely she is to cheat on dates. Li Jie thought this, and then went to Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi's side. As a result, without exception, he was rejected. They are in a bit of a fuss. That night, Li Jie stayed alone in the empty room, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. He was used to sleeping with Xiao Jiao and the others, but suddenly no one was with him, and he felt very uncomfortable. It is really easy to go from frugality to luxury, but hard to go from luxury to frugality. The next day, Li Jie woke up early in the morning and came to the living room. He saw Xiao Jiao dragging a large suitcase and seemed to be going out. He couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Jiao Bao, what are you going to do? You don't want to move out, do you? That's right, I just want to move out, Xiao Jiao said with a pinched neck. Don't you want that Wang's Haining to move in? We'll make room for you. You, Li Jie heard something from her words. Who else is moving out? At this moment, Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi all dragged their suitcases out of the room one after another. Now Li Jie finally understood that Xiao Jiao and the others were going to unite to force him to marry him. Are you all moving out? Right. Can you not leave? No. Unless you sincerely apologize and promise not to mess around again. What do you mean by a sincere apology? Kneel down on the keyboard and say you are wrong, and we will forgive you, Xiao Jiao said with a bit of arrogance. This guy Li Jie has always punished them to kneel down, and he must take the opportunity to take revenge this time. Apologize. It is impossible to apologize, let alone kneel on the keyboard. Li Jie shook his head in his heart. If he could do it in private, he wouldn't mind apologizing to them, apologizing, and saying nice things to coax them. Even if you kneel on the keyboard, you absolutely cannot kneel on the keyboard. After all, it was his fault. With Xiao Jiao and the four of them, they were still not satisfied, and became more and more indulgent, which hurt them. This guy can be called Hong Shixian among scumbags, he is clearly a scumbag. But now they are forcing her to have a baby, and this behavior must not be condoned. Otherwise, they would run away from home at every turn. How could this be possible? If you really want to move out and calm down, I won't stop you. Xiao Jiao was stunned when she heard this, and subconsciously glanced at Zhou Ziyu, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi. They just wanted to force Li Jie to express his position, but they didn't expect that he would not even give in and let them go like this. You really would rather let us leave than apologize, Xiao Qiao said, biting her lip. This guy Li Jie, even if he doesn't want to kneel down at the keyboard, he can just apologize. Li Jie did not answer, but instead said, "Okay, you all, stop making trouble and put everything back." Seeing that he was so tough and refused to give in even a step, Xiao Qiao felt aggrieved and angry. "Are we making trouble? Li Jie, you bastard, you and I will never come back." After saying that, she dragged her suitcase and turned around to leave. The moment he turned around, tears streamed down his face. Zhou, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi looked at each other and left with their suitcases. Before Zhou left the house, he looked back at Li Jie. She didn't expect Li Jie to be so tough. With a bang, the door was closed. Li Jie looked at the empty room and couldn't help but feel a little upset. He didn't want to treat Xiao Qiao and the others like that, but he really couldn't give in just now. Between men and women, either you are strong or I am weak. Therefore, he must maintain a strong position in front of Xiao Qiao and the others. Of course, it can't just be strong, it must be both soft and hard. Xiao Qiao and the others each have their own thoughts, and this alliance will not last long. After a few days, Li Jie will find an opportunity to defeat them one by one and bring them all into submission. If the relationship between men and women wants to be long-lasting, it must not only focus on feelings, but also on means. Not only between men and women, but also between relatives and friends. Since ancient times, true love cannot be retained, only routines can win people's hearts. This is the most profound lesson Li Jie has learned over the years. The one who pays the most is often the one who gets dumped. Those who are favored the most are often the least filial. Those who are truly loyal are often the most miserable. This has always been the case from ancient times to the present. In the elevator, Xiao Qiao had a cold face and red eyes. Zhou, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi also didn't look good. This time they worked together for the first time and joined forces to force the palace to restrain Li Jie, but failed. Xiao Qiao was so impulsive just now that she almost mentioned breaking up, but when the words came to her lips, she changed her mind again. But she and Li Jie had been together for 3 years, how could they be willing to break up like this? What's more, if she really breaks up with Li Jie, won't she be advantageous to Zhou? Rather than that, she would rather let Wang Zhaining in. Thinking this, Xiao Qiao looked at Zhou. Damn Zhou Fox. Otherwise, Li Jie wouldn't be like this. Zhou didn't notice Xiao Qiao's gaze and was lost in thought. She regretted that she had lost her mind and listened to Xiao Qiao's bad idea of running away from home. As a result, not only did they lose their original advantage, but Li Jie defeated his entire army. Zhou already understood what Li Jie was thinking, which was to let them recognize the reality. But what if you see through it? When Li Jie came to comfort her, she still had to go down the steps. You can't really break up with Li Jie, right? Even if Li Jie doesn't come to comfort her, she still has to find the steps by herself. Xiao Qiao, this pig teammate. Zhou regrets it, and so does Lu Kaiyu. She also felt that she shouldn't listen to Xiao Qiao and play run away from home. As for Shen Xinyi, she did not regret it, but felt aggrieved and sad. Ding, the elevator arrived at the underground parking lot. Coming out of the elevator, Xiao Qiao, Zhou, Lu Kaiyu and Shen Xinyi glanced at each other, but no one spoke. They each got in the car with their bodyguards and left. Xiao Qiao's alliance against the scumbag, Li Jie, was more fragile than Li Jie had guessed, and the alliance fell apart at the slightest setback. In the next few days, Xiao Qiao and the other 4 did not return to the apartment, Platinum Bay Mansion. Although they regretted running away from home, they couldn't just go back. Wouldn't it be very shameful to run back just after running away from home? No matter what, they had to wait for Li Jie to come over to comfort them, and then they gave in half-heartedly. Li Jie did not return to his apartment. He moved to a community near the company and focused more on work. And Wang Haining also moved into the community where Li Jie lived. After hearing that Xiao Jiao and the others had broken up with Li Jie and had moved out, Wang Haining ostensibly persuaded Li Jie not to affect his relationship with Xiao Jiao and the others because of her. But in her heart, she wished that Xiao Jiao and the others would never move back again. In this way, she and Li Jie's family of 3 will be complete. Wang Haining didn't realize at all that she had turned into the person she hated most before, smelling like tea. When Xiao Jiao heard from Lu Kaiyu that Li Jie had also moved out and lived with Wang Haining, she suddenly became furious. While cursing Li Jie a scumbag and a big pig's hooves, he wished he could beat that little vixen Wang Haining to death. In the blink of an eye, it's mid-August. Near the Bund, in Xiao Jiao's small duplex apartment. A dart stuck firmly on the dartboard. Xiao Jiao is playing darts again to relieve stress. But this time the photo on the dartboard is no longer Zhou Ziu's, but Li Jie's. While Xiao Jiao was throwing the darts, he was muttering bitterly, "Scumbag, big pig hoof, I'm going to stab you to death. It's been almost a week, and that guy Li Jie still hasn't come over to coax her? This scumbag must have been fascinated by Wang Haining's little vixen and forgot about her." Thinking of this, Xiao Jiao threw the darts harder. At this time, the mobile phone on the desk beside him suddenly rang. Xiao Jiao hurriedly walked over and picked up the phone, only to find that the call was not from Li Jie, but from her mother. "Mom, what's wrong with you?" "What? You, my dad, and Xiaojin are coming to Shanghai. Of course I welcome you." "Li Jie? He has a lot of things at the company recently, so he may not have time to spend with you." "Eat? Eat, he should be able to find time. We have no conflicts and our relationship is fine. Mom, don't worry so much." Xiao Jiao hung up the phone and sighed in annoyance. Her parents and little brother are coming to Shanghai. Father Jiao and Mother Jiao came to Shanghai mainly to send their youngest son to school and to see their daughter and Li Jie, their future son-in-law. 2 years have passed, and Xiao Jiao's younger brother Xiao Jin also took the college entrance examination this year. His grades were not as good as Xiao Jiao's, and he didn't even pass the second level. You can still study for 3 degrees in this province, but if you want to come to Shanghai, you can only study for a junior college. It was Li Jie who helped get his cheap brother-in-law into a 3rd-tier private college. Although it is a private institution, it is also a formal institution recruited by the state. Moreover, Shanghai is rich in educational resources. Even a 3-year college is no worse than an ordinary 2-year college. There are still advantages if you stay in Shanghai and develop. Therefore, Jiao's father and Jiao's mother were very grateful to Li Jie, their future son-in-law, and wanted to treat him to dinner. Xiao Jiao held the mobile phone and hesitated whether to take the initiative to call Li Jie. This time when her parents and little brother came to Shanghai, it was an opportunity for her and Li Jie to reconcile. But she didn't want to compromise with Li Jie anymore. That guy Li Jie became more and more indulgent, and she gave in and tolerated him again and again. This time she really didn't want to back out. If we continue to retreat, we will be unable to retreat sooner or later. After hesitating for a long time, Xiao Jiao put down the phone. On the morning of August 16, Xiao Jiao drove her Range Rover Evoque, which had been gathering dust in the garage, and arrived at Hongqiao Airport with her bodyguard. When Xiao Jiao walked into the airport and arrived at the pickup gate, he saw a tall and upright figure standing in front of him. She was stunned for a moment, surprised, but she soon became serious again. "How did you come?" Li Jie turned around with a smile. "Of course I'm here to pick up my uncle, aunt, and others. There's no need for you to be attentive. Why don't you go spend time with your little vixen when you have time?" Xiao Jiao said with a cold face. "Little vixen?" Li Jie was stunned for a moment before realizing that she was talking about Wang Haining. This Xiao Jiao really loves to give people nicknames. However, Wang's Haining is 17 centimeters tall, which is half a head taller than her. If you want to call her, she should be called Big Vixen, right? Thinking like this, Li Jie reached out and hugged Xiao Jiao into his arms. Okay, it's all my fault, so don't be angry. Are you wrong? Are you going to be wrong again? If you are wrong, it is also our fault. Xiao Jiao struggled to shake him off. Li Jie suddenly said, Uncle and Aunt are coming out. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 457. When Xiao Jiao heard this, he immediately did not dare to struggle. He subconsciously looked at the pickup port, only to find that no one came out at all. Li Jie, you lied to me again. Jiao Bao, just forgive me. Isn't it okay for me to kneel on the keyboard? It's too late, it's useless even if you kneel to death. Li Jie coaxed him for a while and finally calmed Xiao Jiao down temporarily. At this time, waves of people came out of the airport pickup port. Jiao's father, Jiao's mother, and Jiao's brother dragged their suitcases into the crowd. Li Jie pulled Xiao Jiao and greeted him, Uncle, Auntie. Seeing that Li Jie also came to pick us up at the airport, Father Jiao and Mother Jiao were a little surprised. Xiao Jie, your company is so busy, so there is no need to come to pick us up. Li Jie said with a smile, Uncle and Aunt, you are here. I will come over no matter how busy I am. Hearing what he said, Father Jiao and Mother Jiao were very happy, and the smiles on their faces became thicker. Xiao Jiao on the side looked at Li Jie pretending to be a good person in front of her parents, and curled her lips angrily. This guy usually bullied her, but now he was pretending to be a good son-in-law. Brother-in-law, Jiao de Ziajin said affectionately. He didn't have much contact with his future brother-in-law. He only met him a few times when he came to Shanghai during the holidays, but he was close to him from the bottom of his heart. Whether he can be successful in school in Shanghai and find a beautiful girlfriend all depends on this brother-in-law. Li Jie looked at Ziajin and found that his cheap brother-in-law had become more mature after not seeing him for more than half a year. Ziajin, find a girlfriend as soon as you go to college. After hearing this, Ziajin scratched her head and smiled sheepishly, obviously full of yearning for college life. Father Jiao glanced at his youngest son, but didn't say anything. He previously opposed his daughter's romance in college, but he does not object to his son's romance. However, Mother Jiao smiled and said, he is still young now, so he should focus on studying. Uncle, Aunt, let's go. Li Jie took the suitcase from Father Jiao's hand. A group of people came out of the airport and came to the parking lot. Looking at the domineering and luxurious Bentley Arnage RL in front of her, Mother Jiao couldn't help but say, Xiao Jie, you changed cars again. Although she didn't know a Bentley, she could tell that Li Jie's new car was more expensive than that Audi. Ziajin recognized the Bentley logo at a glance and touched the car body excitedly. His brother-in-law was getting richer and richer. He used to worry about finding a job in the future, but now he feels he can rest easy. There is no way this brother-in-law would ignore him. It's just that his sister is a bit unreliable. Don't lose his good brother-in-law again. Thinking this, Ziajin glanced at her sister, but her eyes met Xiao Jiao's. You should study hard when you go to college. Don't show off in the name of your brother-in-law, you know. Xiao Jiao taught his brother a lesson. After driving away from the airport, Li Jie did not go back to Xiao Jiao's apartment. Instead, he went to a popular restaurant to meet Jiao's father and Jiao's mother. There were people drinking and drinking at the dinner table, and the atmosphere was warm and lively. Xiao Jiao took out a bank card and handed it to his brother. Ziajin, take this card. I will put 3,000 into the card every month, which will be your pocket money. Sister, you are so good to me. Xiaojin looked surprised and reached out to take the bank card. Father Chiao on the side frowned and said, wait a minute. Xiao Chiao, why did you give him so much money? Mother Chiao also said, that's right. Don't give Xiaojin so much money, it will spoil him. I didn't give much, just 3,000. For Xiao Chiao, 3,000 is already very little. Originally, she wanted to give 5,000, but after thinking about it, she thought it was a bit much, so she reduced it to 3,000. You must know that her monthly pocket money is only 3 to 400,000, and she can spend tens of thousands on shopping and eating. Father Chiao and Mother Chiao looked at each other with complicated expressions. Their daughter was so spoiled by Li Jie that she didn't know the sufferings of the world. 3,000 yuan is no longer money. Chiao's mother works as a primary school teacher and earns just over 2,000 yuan a month. Father Chiao has worked in the middle school for so many years and only earns more than 3,000 yuan a month. Father Chiao looked at his daughter and said in a deep voice, not much, 3,000. How much money can you make in a month? The 3,000 yuan seemed to be given by his daughter, but it was actually Li Jie's money. Father Chiao was not only worried about his son being spoiled, but also worried about his silly daughter. Xiao Chiao's house, car, and money were all given by Li Jie. Xiaojin's school is also connected to Li Jichuo, and even the tuition is paid for by him. Following Li Jie's advice, when housing prices plummeted in 2008, Chiao's father and Chiao's mother took out all their family savings and borrowed some money to buy a small apartment with a down payment in the Shanghai stock market. 2 bedrooms and 1 living room of 58 square meters cost less than 600,000. Chiao's father and Chiao's mother have a combined monthly salary of less than 6,000 yuan, and they have to pay off a mortgage of 2,000 to 3,000 yuan a month. They simply cannot afford to pay for their youngest son's expensive tuition. The teaching quality of the 3 private colleges that Li Jie found for his cheap brother-in-law was good, but the tuition was too expensive. Ordinary majors cost 30,000 per year, and accommodation fees are 4,800 per year. The accommodation fees are as high as the tuition fees of ordinary universities. Xiao Chiao's annual tuition is only 4,500. Chiao's father and Chiao's mother originally wanted to borrow some money from relatives and friends to cover their son's tuition and accommodation fees for the first year, and then figure out a way later. Unexpectedly, Li Jie not only helped find a school, but also paid the tuition and accommodation fees in advance. Their family already owed Li Jie enough, no more. It's okay for Xiao Chiao to spend Li Jie's money. The two are boyfriend and girlfriend, so it's barely acceptable. But you can't ask Li Jie to provide for Xiaojin even when she goes to school, right? Not to mention that Xiao Chiao and Li Jie are not married yet. Even if they are married, it would not be appropriate to do this. In this case, it would be difficult for Xiao Chiao to feel confident in front of Li Jie. Xiao Chiao is heartless and may not think that much, but as parents, they must help her think about it. If he had known that Li Jie would find such an expensive school, he would rather have his son go to a junior college. Thinking like this, Father Chiao said to his daughter, Xiao Chiao, put the card away, and I will give him Xiaojin's living expenses. Seeing what Chiao's father said, Xiao Chiao had no choice but to take the bank card back and give his brother a look, as if to say, it's not that I won't give you the money, it's that your parents won't let it. Xiaojin looked at the bank card eagerly, with disappointment on her face. Li Jie smiled and interjected, Uncle, Aunt, let Xiaojin take this money. This money is not only given by Xiao Chiao, but also given by me. Private colleges are relatively expensive. If Xiaojin wants to find another girlfriend, the cost will be even greater. The money is too little. Here in Shanghai, those who can afford to study in private capital colleges like this have good family conditions, and the tendency of comparison in schools is definitely greater than in ordinary colleges. If you go to this kind of school, you will be too poor and you will be easily excluded. It's not that they don't want to play with you, it's that you don't have the money to play with them. After listening to Li Zhe's words, Mother Chiao felt that it made sense and looked at Father Chiao with questioning eyes. She didn't think as much as Father Chiao thought, and she didn't see anything wrong with spending her son-in-law's money. Anyway, the son-in-law is so rich, so he doesn't need this much money. Xiaojin also said quickly, "Dad, my brother-in-law is right. Going to college is very expensive now. Just give me 600 yuan for living expenses. It's not enough at all. Let alone find a girlfriend." He said this in a low voice. Father Chiao shook his head lightly at Mother Chiao, and then said to his youngest son angrily, "If you don't have enough money, just make it yourself. I didn't realize that your brother-in-law earned all the money he needed to go to college. How can I compare with my brother-in-law?" Xiaojin muttered softly. "Uncle." Li Zhe wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by Father Chiao. "Okay, Xiaojin, please stop talking. You can't spoil this kid too much. He's such an adult and should get some proper training. You and Xiao Chiao don't give him money secretly, do you understand?" Father Chiao said this, but in his heart he decided to give his youngest son a few $100 more for living expenses. Seeing that Li Zhe's words were useless, Xiaojin was completely disappointed. Father Chiao looked at his daughter, then at Li Zhe, and said hesitantly, "Xiao Zhe, have you and Xiao Chiao considered when to get married?" Hearing what he said, Xiao Chiao, Mother Chiao and Xiao Jin all looked at Li Zhe. Father Chiao actually didn't want to say anything like urging marriage, but he was really worried about his daughter's future. He has been following the internet for the past 2 years, and Li Zhe also has news about the entertainment group. Li Zhe made his fortune so fast that it's hard to believe. In just 2 or 3 years, he was worth several billion and even made it onto the rich list. But the more this happened, the more worried Father Chiao became. A successful man like Li Zhe has to face too many temptations. Especially since he operates in the entertainment industry, he usually comes into contact with some beautiful female celebrities and anchors. Xiao Chiao is very beautiful, but compared with ordinary girls, compared with those beautiful female celebrities and female anchors, she has no advantage at all. Besides, even if Li Zhe really didn't have any evil intentions, he still couldn't stop all kinds of young and beautiful girls from throwing themselves at him. Just like when he almost. Father Chiao even suspected that Li Zhe had another woman. This is not what he is most worried about. He is more afraid that Li Zhe is just playing with Xiao Chiao. Although Li Zhe appears to be very reliable, he knows people well but doesn't know their hearts. Who knows if this kid might be a scumbag who always gives up? "Dad, I haven't graduated yet, why are you anxious?" Although Xiao Chiao was still a little resentful towards Li Zhe, she still stood up to speak for him. Li Zhe glanced at her with a smile, and then said to Chiao's father, "Uncle, Xiao Chiao has not graduated yet, and our company is also in a critical period of development, so the marriage still has to wait." After hearing what he said, Father Chiao sighed secretly. Sure enough, he guessed it, and Li Zhe just shied away. Not only Chiao's father, but also Xiao Chiao's expression darkened. But at this moment, Li Zhe continued to say, "It may have to wait until August or September next year." As soon as he said these words, Father Chiao, Mother Chiao, Xiao Chiao, and Xiao Jin were all stunned. Father Chiao just wanted Li Zhe to make a statement, such as getting married within 2 or 3 years. Regardless of whether you can do it or not, at least have an attitude. But I never expected that Li Zhe would say that he would get married next year. There was no delay, but rather some impatience. Could it be that he really thought too much and wronged this kid? Xiao Chiao couldn't restrain the excitement and surprise on her face. Li Zhe was finally going to marry her. She almost lost confidence and doubted whether Li Zhe would marry her. But he wasn't fooling her parents, was he? Xiao Chiao suddenly felt worried again. mainly because Li Zhe's credit was completely bankrupt in her mind. Mother Qiao and Xiaojin also had surprised looks on their faces. Qiao's mother and Qiao's father had the same worries. Seeing Li Zhe's net worth growing rapidly, she was also afraid of something happening. Rich people say they are well matched. Will Li Zhe really choose their daughter? As for Xiaojin's idea, it was simple. As soon as Xiao Jiao and Li Zhe got married, his brother-in-law's identity was completely confirmed. Xiao Zhe, are you planning to get married as soon as you graduate? Father Jiao was still a little unsure. Li Zhe nodded seriously, yes, that's what I planned. Then, he took Xiao Jiao's hand, looked at her and said, Jiao Bao, will you marry me? Xiao Jiao's nose felt sore and she wanted to cry. No matter whether what Li Zhe said was true or not, she took it seriously. Who else can I marry besides you? Li Zhe turned to look at Father Jiao and Mother Jiao, Uncle, Auntie, do you agree? Mother Jiao said with joy, it's better to get married early and have children early. We can help you take care of your children while you are young, and you can concentrate on your studies and career. Xiaojin smiled and said, brother-in-law, when you get married, I will be your best man. Qiao's father also had joy on his face, but he quickly calmed down. He looked at Li Zhe and said seriously, Xiao Zhe, Xiao Jiao will be left to you. Uncle and Auntie, don't worry, I won't let Xiao Jiao down, Li Zhe promised. Rest assured? Father Jiao was still a little worried. However, as long as Xiao Jiao and Li Zhe get married and have children. Even if Li Zhe is flirting with others outside, it's not a big problem. For rich and powerful men, it is inevitable to have fun when the occasion arises, as long as they can take care of their families. If you take things too seriously, you will have trouble getting through life. At night, in Xiao Jiao's apartment near the Bund, Li Zhe and Xiao Jiao are watching TV series with Jiao's father and Jiao's mother. Xiaojin was sitting aside, holding an Apple 3GS and playing a game, the mobile version of Tower Defense 3 Kingdoms. This mobile phone was a college gift from Xiao Jiao. Li Zhe also gave his brother-in-law a new Apple laptop. Apple 3GS was launched in China at the end of last year. As soon as it was launched, the Apple trend started in China. It is a great honor for ordinary students to have an iPhone. The iPhone 3GS is also the first Apple mobile phone to officially land in the mainland. By the way, the famous kidney machine iPhone 4 will soon be launched in China. Xiao Jiao would laugh out loud from time to time while watching TV. In fact, this TV series is not interesting, but who makes her feel good? Xiaojin put her head over and whispered to Li Zhe, brother-in-law, can you top up with some more coupons? He has played the mobile game Tower Defense 3 Kingdoms for a long time, but he didn't have much money to recharge. He only spent 50 yuan to get a VIP 2 and expanded the 5 general grids. Just now, Li Zhe accidentally discovered that his cheap brother-in-law was playing this game, so he sent a text message and asked the game technician to activate VIP 8 for him. The game Tower Defense 3 Kingdoms requires 49,390 points, fun coins, to go from VIP 2 to VIP 8, which is 4,939 yuan. Xiaojin, a common player, suddenly became a big R player, and had 4,000 to 5,000 points. She was very excited. I don't know how many times I have said how nice my brother-in-law is. However, looking at the 4,000 or 5,000 coupons on his account, he couldn't help but feel itchy, and he tentatively started to draw the general. First there were small lashes again, and then 10 lashes in a row. As a result, the coupons worth 4,000 to 5,000 yuan were gone after a while. The mobile game Tower Defense 3 Kingdoms is a real money game. If you can't control it, you can spend 4,000 to 5,000 yuan in just a few minutes. All the coupons were gone, and Xiaojin immediately regretted it. It's not cost-effective to draw generals when there is no activity. So many points are wasted, and no good generals are drawn. In the past, he could only regret it, but now he can beg Li Jie, his brother-in-law. The last part about the game is not counted in the word count. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 458. Xiaojin lowered her voice as much as possible, but Father Chiao still heard something. He glared at his younger son. Play games, you know how to play games all day long. If you can play less games, you won't be unable to pass the college entrance examination. Xiaojie, don't spoil this kid and help him play some games. Am I not going to go to college? Xiaojin said unconvinced. He was already considered a good student in their class. There were 200 to 300 people in his class, less than 20 of them could go to the second level, and only 3 of them were in key universities. Township High School. You got into a crappy college with money, and I'm embarrassed to tell anyone about it. When Father Chiao heard this, he became even more angry. He is a teacher in school, but his son has not even taken the second level of education. Li Jie smiled and said, Uncle, don't be too strict with Xiaojin. There are no young people who don't play games nowadays. Just do it in moderation. This is also a way to relax. Xiaojin became excited when she saw Li Jie supporting him. Brother-in-law is right, who among the young people nowadays doesn't play games? Besides, the game I am playing was developed by my brother-in-law, and I am also supporting my brother-in-law by playing the game. Father Chiao glared at his youngest son again. You're not good at what you do, but you're always talking about the wrong things. Let me tell you, don't think that everything will be fine after you go to college. I won't be able to control you if you are far away from home. When saying this, he also glanced at Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao was a little confused. Does this have anything to do with her? Wasn't it just that when she first applied for a university, the school she chose was a little far away from home? If you dare not study hard and fail my class, your phone and computer will be confiscated, do you understand? Father Chiao said this last sentence in a stern tone. Xiaojin's face suddenly became flattered. How could he guarantee that he would not fail any subject? However, the management of private self-financed colleges should not be too strict, right? Li Jie picked up his phone and sent another text message, but within 2 or 3 minutes, Xiaojin on the side looked over again and said excitedly, Thank you, brother-in-law. He added another 150,000 points to his game account, and was directly promoted to the top VIP 10. Even if the big boss orders something trivial, the people below will treat it as a big deal and handle it as quickly as possible. Father Chiao glanced at his youngest son and frowned. Xiaojie, didn't I tell you not to play games for him? Mother Chiao also said, Yes, Xiaojie, don't spoil him too much. However, as she said this, she was very happy in her heart that her son-in-law and her youngest son were so close. With Li Jie's identity, as long as he helps his younger son casually in the future, his future will not be worried. In reality, it is difficult for humans to escape the influence of money and power factors. Li Jie is so kind to his cheap brother-in-law, which is also a disguised form of compensation. Eaters are soft-mouthed, but takers are short-handed. As long as he doesn't abandon her, even if Chiao's father and Chiao's mother discover that he has another woman, it will be difficult to be too harsh. It's hard to be tough when you're enjoying other people's benefits. Li Jie glanced at it, his hands were itchy after having some coupons, and he was slapping the general's cheap brother-in-law again. Xiaojin, just play this kind of game for fun. Don't get addicted to it, let alone put money into it. This is virtual data. What you charge is money and what you waste is energy. But for game companies, it is just a matter of modifying the game data. Just like my brother-in-law gave me an order, your game data changed. Did you listen? What your brother-in-law said makes so much sense. Father Chiao taught his son again. Brother-in-law, don't worry, I'm just playing for fun, I won't take it seriously, let alone put money into it. He is not stupid. He will never play games from other companies in the future. He only needs to play games developed by his brother-in-law's company. This kid is always rude in front of his father, but he is very obedient in front of Li Jie. Li Jie nodded, turned to Xiao Jiao and said, Jiao Bao, let's go help uncle and Xiao Jing clean up the room. Okay, Xiao Jiao stood up with a smile. Xiaojin looked at the two people leaving, and suddenly came up with an idea. How could his brother-in-law, who was so good, fall in love with his sister? Apart from being good-looking, his sister has no other advantages. Xiaojin, Father Chiao suddenly called him. Dad, what's wrong? You go to school in Shanghai. If you have nothing to do, go visit your sister and brother-in-law. Chiao's father paused and then said, also, pay attention to your brother-in-law. Dad, do you want me to be an internal agent? Xiaojin said in surprise. Mother Chiao was also a little surprised. She opened her mouth to say something, but hesitated and didn't say anything. It would be a good idea to ask your younger son to pay more attention to Li Jie's situation. What is internal response? Father Chiao said angrily. I just want you to pay more attention to your brother-in-law's situation. This isn't internal response, what is it? Thinking like this, Xiaojin took the opportunity to bargain and said, Dad, if you let me be the internal agent, do you also want to give me more living expenses? Father Chiao nodded, okay, I'll give you 300 more. He originally planned to give his younger son some extra living expenses. Just 300 more. What, you still think it's too little? If it's too little, don't take it. Okay, Xiaojin said reluctantly. 900 yuan a month is a lot for living expenses, but Xiao Jiao had to pay 3,000 yuan before. It's only 300 yuan, and you still want him to betray his brother-in-law? He is a principled person. In the guest room, Li Jie and Xiao Jiao were making the bed and tidying up the room. Li Jie gave Xiao Jiao this small duplex apartment with 2 floors, 3 bedrooms, and 2 living rooms, 140 square meters. Apartments do not only refer to commercial and residential properties, but apartments in a broad sense also include finely decorated residences. Living alone in such a big house would seem a bit deserted. However, Xiao Jiao rarely lives here. She basically lives with Li Jie. This time I ran away from home and stayed here for a few more days. As Xiao Jiao put new sheets on the bed, he glanced at Li Jie and said, hubby, is what you just said true? What is true? Li Jie seemed not to understand. You said you wanted to marry me, is it true? Xiao Jiao bit her lip, her eyes full of anticipation, but her heart was very uneasy. Wasn't this guy really just dealing with her parents just now? So that's what you're talking about, Li Jie showed a surprised expression. My uncle asked me that just now, so I had to. Seeing that the light in Xiao Jiao's eyes disappeared and was replaced by disappointment, she pursed her lips tightly and tried not to cry. Li Jie suddenly turned around and said, okay, I'm teasing you, of course what I said is true. When Xiao Jiao heard this, the light in his eyes came back, and his face was full of surprise. She jumped up excitedly, hugging Li Jie's neck like a sloth. Ah! Husband, how could you do this? After a pause, she said again, husband, you are so kind. Li Jie said in a funny tone, now you're talking about me? Who called me a scumbag and a pig's hooves before? Yes, Xiao Jiao let out a coquettish hum, and then said with a smile, it's still bad, but it's a little bit better. Then, she smiled and whispered, the big pig's trotters are also delicious. Li Jie couldn't help but laugh. This Xiao Jiao was so interesting. Xiao Jiao glanced at him coquettishly, and then she seemed to remember something. Husband, didn't you say before that you would marry whoever gets pregnant first among us, but I'm not pregnant either. It's okay, you can just make up for it later, Li Jie said with a smile. Xiao Jiao was stunned for a moment and said, "Can this still be remedied?" Then he realized that Li Jie was leaning toward her, and a bright smile appeared on his face. "Husband, thank you." "What's this?" Li Jie cheated, hugged, and hurt Xiao Jiao so many times. Now he was just willing to take responsibility, but Xiao Jiao thanked him in turn. Li Jie suppressed his smile and said seriously, "Jiao Bao, when we graduate next year, we will go back to school to take wedding photos together. We first met on the school bus for orientation, and got married when we graduated, from school uniforms to wedding dresses." "From school uniforms to wedding dresses," Xiao Jiao said softly, then her nose became sore and tears flowed down uncontrollably. In the past 2 years, she had accumulated too many grievances in her heart, and she had thought several times about breaking up with Li Jie. But Li Jie's words made all the grievances in her heart collapse in an instant. For a girl with Xiao Jiao's feelings, the words school uniform to wedding dress are too destructive. It brought back all the romantic memories between the two of them. Li Jie reached out to Xiao Jiao and wiped the tears from his face. "Jiao Bao, I know I'm not a good boyfriend and have done a lot of things to hurt you, but it's true that I like you and want to marry you. It's true that I will take care of you for the rest of my life." Xiao Jiao looked at him and cried even harder, but she was not crying out of grievance, but out of emotion. "Husband, I know I'm not a good girlfriend, but I will try my best to be a good wife in the future." Li Jie hugged Xiao Jiao into his arms and stroked her back, feeling slightly relieved. Got one. What Li Jie said just now is true. It is true that he likes Xiao Jiao and it is true that he wants to marry her. However, when he decided to marry her first, he still weighed the pros and cons. Falling in love can be impulsive, but getting married must be done with caution. Who will marry first between Xiao Jiao and Zhou Ziyu? Li Jie had hesitated. It can be said that Zhou Ziyu's desire to rise to the top is obvious, and of course he will not fail to see it. And Zhou Ziyu is also very suitable to be the main palace. She is beautiful, smart, considerate to men. Except that she looks too charming and not dignified enough, she has all the potential to become a wealthy hostess. In contrast, Xiao Jiao is not smart enough and is a bit out of tune. The little girl is full of heart. More suitable for falling in love than getting married. But Zhou Ziyu is so smart. Li Jie can control Xiao Jiao, but he cannot control Zhou Ziyu. She can even figure out his thoughts clearly. If she really takes the lead, Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, and Shen Xinyi will have less room for survival, and they may have to leave in the end. Therefore, Xiao Jiao is not suitable to be the main palace, but for him she is the most suitable candidate. Only she can tolerate the existence of a love rival. If the real girlfriend was Zhou Ziyu from the beginning, Xiao Jiao, Lu Kaiyu, Shen Xinyi, and the others would never even think about entering. What's more, Xiao Jiao also has her cuteness. Just when Li Jie was lost in his thoughts, Xiao Jiao suddenly raised his head from his arms and said, "Husband, let her move in." Li Jie was stunned for a moment, then reacted and said, "Jiao Bao, do you agree?" He knew that the woman Xiao Jiao was talking about was Wang Haining. Xiao Jiao nodded, "I still don't like her, but she is pregnant with your child after all. I do it for the sake of the child." Li Jie was a little surprised and looked her up and down. Originally, he wanted to find an opportunity to tell Xiao Jiao about Wang Haining, but unexpectedly she took the initiative. This is the cute thing about Xiao Jiao, he is emotional, soft-hearted, and relatively easy to be satisfied. "What's wrong? Why do you look at me like this?" Xiao Jiao asked a little confused. "I didn't expect you to be quite ladylike," Li Jie said with a smile. "It's not like a big lady to tolerate your fickleness, isn't it?" Xiao Jiao said angrily. "Husband, you didn't think I was easy to bully, so that's why you chose me over that Joe Fox, right?" Li Jie spanked Xiao Jiao's little buttocks. "What are you talking about? Xiao Jiao's intuition is really good. Okay, I've wronged you, Xiao Qiao pouted. But hubby, it's just this time. If there is another time, I will never agree. Xiao Qiao also saw through that Li Jie, a big pig with hooves, really couldn't control him, so she didn't bother to care about him when he was messing around outside. However, he cannot be allowed to bring women or children home again. Okay, I promise it's just this once. They are all about to become baby daddies, and Li Jie is also ready to calm down. Well, I'll try my best not to accept lovers from now on. Let's play more friendly games. The friendship between him and Yang Function is quite good. As long as a man is obsessed with things, he can never become a good man again. It's all nonsense that a man won't play anymore after he's had enough fun outside. It's not that you've had enough fun, it's that you can't play anymore. A man will only be honest if he hangs it on the wall. This sentence is the truth. I don't see many men who are still old in their 70s and 80s, but still have a masculine nature and a stubborn heart. You promise? Xiao Qiao gave Li Jie a look of contempt. Obviously she didn't believe his guarantee. Seeing that Xiao Qiao didn't give him face, Li Jie felt a little embarrassed, but he didn't want to get angry. Who gave him too many criminal records? Okay, come on down, the room isn't finished yet. This little Qiao is still hanging on him like a sloth. However, Xiao Qiao refused to come down and said in a coquettish voice, "Hubby, I want to eat big pig's trotters." She has been alone in an empty room for almost a week, and she also has needs. Li Jie glanced at Xiao Qiao and said, "Have you thought about it?" This Xiao Qiao is really not reserved at all. However, he liked her lack of reserve. "Well, I thought about it. But uncle, aunt, and Xiaojin are all outside, so we'd better wait." "Wait a little longer?" Xiao Qiao was surprised. Why did Li Jie suddenly become worried? Doesn't he just like? Could it be that he was hollowed out by those little goblins outside? Definitely. That useless big pig's trotters, when he was needed, he couldn't do it. After helping Father Qiao, Mother Qiao, and Xiao Jing clean up the room, and then return to the living room, Li Jie said to his cheap brother-in-law who was still playing games, "Xiao Jin, stop playing games all the time. Let's go out for a run." Running, Xiaojin didn't want to run, but rather played games. "But you must listen to your brother-in-law." Xiao Qiao glanced at Li Jie and said, "Are you still going for a run?" "What's wrong?" Li Jie felt something was wrong in her eyes. "Nothing. My physical strength is not good, but I still waste my energy by going for a run." Xiao Qiao cursed in his heart. Li Jie changed into sportswear and went out with his cheap brother-in-law. After entering the elevator, Li Jie took out his wallet and pulled out a bank card. "Xiaojin, this card has a monthly limit of 6,000, you can use it as pocket money." With that said, he handed the bank card to his cheap brother-in-law. Xiaojin was stunned for a moment, then took the bank card with a look of surprise on her face. "Thank you, brother-in-law." "Brother-in-law, you are so kind. 6,000 pocket money a month. His brother-in-law is so generous. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn." Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 459. Li Jie looked at his cheap brother-in-law who looked pleased with himself, thought for a while and said, "Xiaojin, this money is for you to use for daily expenses and to have a girlfriend. If you have something you want to buy but don't have enough money, you can tell your brother-in-law and he will buy it for you. As long as it's something someone else has, he won't let you go without it." "Thank you, brother-in-law." Xiaojin felt even happier. It's great to have such a brother-in-law. His sister is quite useful, how else could he have such a good brother-in-law? Li Jie continued, "But don't blindly compare with others, let alone be a bad example, you know. If you let me know that you are a bad person, I will freeze the card for you." Here in Shanghai, students who can afford to attend private capital colleges and universities have good family conditions. If they don't have money, they will easily be looked down upon, let alone find a girlfriend. Especially since his cheap brother-in-law is very average looking, it is impossible for any girl to pursue him. Living expenses of 600 yuan a month are not that small in this era, but that is for students in ordinary colleges and universities. In such a private capital university, even a monthly living allowance of 6,000 yuan is probably above average. But Li Jie just wanted to take more care of his cheap brother-in-law, and didn't want to really spoil him. Brother-in-law, don't worry, I won't spend money recklessly, let alone be a bad learner, Xiaojin promised. Add 6,000 to 900, which is 6,900. He thinks it must be enough. When he was in high school, his monthly pocket money was only a little over 100. It is hard for students from small towns to imagine how luxurious children from wealthy families in big cities are. After getting out of the elevator and outside, Li Jie and his brother-in-law started jogging side by side. I ran out of the community, jogged along the road, and stopped when I came to Binjiang Avenue. At night, the Bund is brightly lit and crowded with people, and it is still so lively. However, there are more people selling roses tonight. Today is Chinese Valentine's Day, the traditional Valentine's Day. Li Jie and his cheap brother-in-law were wandering along the street, but no one came to them to sell flowers. As Xiaojin walked, she looked around, her eyes focused on the girls taking pictures. When he saw those young lovers holding hands and hugging each other, especially the pretty girls, he showed even more envy. Xiaojin wanted to find a girlfriend when she was in high school, but Jiao's father was a teacher at the school and had strict control over him. In addition, he looks very average and is not particularly good at studies. He is just mediocre and no girls like him. Suddenly, Xiaojin's eyes were startled and she saw a tall and beautiful girl walking over from not far away. The girl looks to be in her early 20s, dressed very nicely, and is the innocent type that little boys like. After Xiaojin came to her senses, she couldn't help but look at the girl a few more times. There are many pretty girls here on the Bund, but there are very few that stand out like this girl. The girl seemed to notice Xiaojin's gaze and looked towards him. Xiaojin panicked and quickly looked away, not daring to look any further. But the girl took the initiative to come over to the two of them. When she found the girl coming, Xiaojin became even more nervous and panicked. In high school, there were a few girls in their school who were pretty good looking, but they couldn't compare to this girl in terms of appearance or grooming. "Mr. Li, are you coming here to hang out too?" the girl said respectfully to Li Jie. Seeing that the girl was not here to find him, Xiaojin breathed a sigh of relief, but was also slightly disappointed. He looked back and forth between Li Jie and the girl, curious about the relationship between his brother-in-law and the other party. Li Jie glanced at his cheap brother-in-law and said, "I'm taking my brother out for a run." "Xiao Man, are you here alone?" "This girl is the female anchor Xiaoman." Lu Man nodded, "If you have nothing to do at night, just go out for a walk." Doesn't he know best why she is wandering here alone? At this moment, Li Jie's cell phone suddenly rang. He answered the call and chatted for a few words before hanging up. "Xiao Man, I have something to do. Could you please accompany my brother for a while?" After saying that, Li Jie said to his cheap brother-in-law, "Xiao Jin, I have to go do some errands. You go shopping with Miss Man for a while, and then I'll come find you when I'm done." Xiao Jin glanced at Lu Man, feeling surprised and happy, and didn't think about what Li Jie was going to do at all. "Okay, brother-in-law, go and do your work, don't worry about me." Lu Man smiled and said to Xiaojin, "Your name is Xiaojin, right?" "I am Lu Man." As she spoke, she stretched out her hand. Xiaojin gently shook Lu Man's hand with some restraint. "Hello, Sister Xiao Man, I am Xiaojin, the Xiao with the prefix zu and yu." "Xiaojin? Your surname is quite rare." Lu Man smiled. "Shall we go for a walk in front?" Xiaojin glanced at Li Jie and left with Lu Man. "Xiaojin, Your surname is Xiao, so is Xiao Jiao yours? Xiao Jiao is my sister. So you are Xiao Jiao's younger brother. Mr. Li is your brother-in-law. Sister Xiaoman, what do you do? I work as an anchor, and your brother-in-law is my boss. It turns out that she is the female anchor of her brother-in-law's company. No wonder she looks so beautiful. Xiaojin thought secretly in her heart. At first, Xiaojin acted very reserved and shy in front of Lu Man, but after chatting for a while, she gradually relaxed a little. A young girl who looked like a student came over and stopped the two of them holding a box of roses. "Handsome guy, can you buy a bouquet of flowers for your girlfriend?" the flower seller said, handing a small bouquet of roses to Xiaojin. Xiaojin glanced at the roses in the girl's hands, then turned to look at Lu Man, and nodded, "Okay, how much is it?" 90 yuan, the girl selling flowers said with a smile. "Wait a minute," Lu Man called to Xiaojin. She reached out and took out a rose from the carton of roses. "You don't have to buy a bunch, just get this one." "Then I want one," Xiaojin also said. "It's 10 yuan each." Seeing that Lu Man only wanted one rose, the flower seller was a little disappointed. She glanced at Xiaojin and said, "Handsome guy, your girlfriend is really nice. Not only is she so beautiful, she also knows how to help you save money." After hearing this, Xiaojin looked at Lu Man subconsciously, and her already slightly red face turned even redder. Lu Man held the rose and smiled calmly. The girl selling flowers took the money and left. Before leaving, she glanced at Xiaojin and Lu Man again. "This girl is beautiful and sensible, but her boyfriend is very ordinary, and the two of them are not worthy at all." Seeing his cheap brother-in-law walking away with Lu Man, Li Jie smiled and looked away. In fact, this was not an accidental encounter. He specially called this Lu Man here just to get rid of his cheap brother-in-law. Li Jie also had some considerations in choosing to call Lu Man over. Although Lu Man is a girl who has worked in nightclubs, she is not bad in nature and knows how to be proper. Many of the female anchors under Kudong Studio kept in touch with their big brothers without telling the company. The money gained in this way does not need to be divided with the studio. Only a few girls, such as Lu Man, did not do this at all. Li Jie didn't want to find a young anchor who didn't know what to do. It would be troublesome if he got involved with his cheap brother-in-law. The brother-in-law of the big boss of the group, this identity alone is enough to make most of the young anchors tempted. If Father Chiao and Mother Chiao knew that he had found a female anchor for his cheap brother-in-law, he would not get thanks, but complaints. Also, Li Jie called Lu Man over because he wanted to test his cheap brother-in-law. The lower a person comes from, the later they mature and gain insight into true human nature. Li Jie has a deep understanding of this, because he used to be like this, without a clear plan for life. He didn't like to socialize, and he couldn't let go of his face, so he did so poorly. Seeing this cheap brother-in-law, Li Jie seemed to see his past self. Of course, this cheap brother-in-law is better than him, at least he is smart. But even so, he is still very immature, far from those children who have received elite education since childhood. Moreover, many of the things Chiao's father and Chiao's mother gave him were wrong and not suitable for this society. If he waited for him to discover and correct himself, he would have to take a long detour. Seeing that he was about to become a baby daddy, Li Jie planned to practice his skills with this cheap brother-in-law first, so as to gain experience in educating his children in the future. And the first lesson his cheap brother-in-law learned was about women. Women are men's best teachers of mental growth. This Lu Man has experience and sense of propriety, so he should be able to teach his cheap brother-in-law something. While Li Jie was deep in thought, bodyguard Zhou Chao came behind him with a large bouquet of roses. "Mr. Li, Miss Zhou is already waiting for you." Li Jie came to his senses and took the rose from Zhou Chao. "Let's go." Arriving at a nearby coffee shop, as soon as Li Jie entered, he saw Zhou Zia wearing a light blue dress, sitting elegantly by the window, with a lazy and charming expression, holding a cup of coffee in his hand, calmly looking out the window. This scene is like a figure in a painting, incredibly beautiful. The environment of the coffee shop is very quiet, and there is the melodious sound of piano. A pretty girl who looks like a college student is playing the piano. There are not many customers, sitting in twos and threes. Many male customers look towards Josio unconsciously. Seeing Li Jie come in, Josio just glanced at him with a slight smile, and then turned away. Li Jie shook his head in his heart. His little lover was getting more and more angry. I remember that when the two of them first got together, she was completely obedient to him and did whatever he asked for. He could do with her however he wanted. With this in mind, Li Jie walked up to Josio and handed her a large bouquet of roses in his hand. Xiao, Happy Chinese Valentine's Day. Thank you. Josio took the rose with a smile, smelled it, and put it aside. Li Jie pulled out his chair and sat down opposite her. Josio picked up a rectangular gift box and handed it to him. Husband, this is the gift I prepared for you. Li Jie took it and opened it and found a red Versace tie in the box. Husband, do you like it? Josio stared at him and asked. How could I not like the gift you gave me? Li Jie did not answer directly. The meaning of this gift is extraordinary. Xiao, why are you looking at me? Seeing Josio still staring at him, Li Jie felt a little uncomfortable. Husband, where is your gift? Isn't that bouquet of flowers the gift you prepared? Josio narrowed her eyes and said a little coquettishly. I'll give you the gift later. Li Jie waved to the waiter, ordered a cup of coffee, and then chatted with Josio while drinking the coffee. Josio picked up the coffee and took a sip. After putting down the cup, she suddenly said, Husband, let her move in. After hearing this, Li Jie glanced at her in surprise. You agreed. He didn't want to talk to Josio about this tonight, but he took the initiative to compromise without wanting her. Yeah? Then who else agreed? Josio caught the key point from his words. Li Jie smiled, but did not answer. Instead, he took out a small gift box from his pocket and put it in her eyes. Is this a gift? Josio looked at him with a smile, picked up the small box and opened it. Then she froze. Inside the box is a very beautiful large diamond ring. The diamond is bigger than a pigeon egg. In order to coax his girlfriend, Li Jie paid the IQ tax again. This pear-shaped diamond ring weighs 12 carats and is worth nearly 30 million. Ring, Josio raised her head with surprise and a hint of hidden worry in her beautiful eyes, but not much joy or excitement. If he were to propose marriage, it would be impossible for Li Jie to give him such a big diamond ring given his personality, so this ring would be. Her heart tightened, and a bad premonition came to her. Xiao, let me put it on for you. Li Jie stood up and came to Josio, took the ring, then knelt down on one knee and helped her put the ring on the ring finger of her left hand. On the fair and slender jade hand, the huge diamond shines brightly and charmingly under the lights of the cafe. Josio didn't look at the diamond ring at all, but bit her lip and looked at Li Jie, who was kneeling on one knee in front of her. Her eyes were very complicated, disappointed, sad, and mixed with a hint of hope. Li Jie held Josio's jade hand and admired the diamond ring. When he raised his head, he met her gaze. He couldn't help but be startled, and then averted his eyes. Xiao, do you like it? I like it, Josio said. She liked it, but her smile was very forced, and the trace of hope in her eyes disappeared. After a pause, she said in a tone that looked like a joke but was actually sad, Husband, I thought you would propose marriage by the way. This is an almost explicit hint and the last hope. The smile on Li Jie's face could no longer be maintained. He held her hand and fell silent. Josio also fell silent looking at him. A boy knelt on one knee in front of a very beautiful girl. It was like a proposal scene, which attracted the attention of everyone in the cafe, especially the diamond ring that was larger than a pigeon egg, which was particularly eye-catching. Some people were surprised, some were surprised, some were envious, and there were all kinds of expressions. Such a big diamond ring, can't it be fake? A well-dressed, bourgeois woman looked at the diamond ring on Josie's hand and muttered in a low voice. After a while, Li Jie slowly said, "Xiao, can I ask you something?" Josie looked at him with a complicated expression. "Hubby, you should get up first." Li Jie did not stand up, but continued, "Xiao, can you let Xiao Qiao do it for once?" Seeing that he still said it, Josie sighed softly in his heart, feeling an indescribable loss. Josie had long understood that Li Jie's suggestion that the four of them compete fairly was just a way of appeasing him, and he must have a bias in his heart. So she has been working hard to strive for a greater chance of winning. But she still lost to that Xiao Qiao who was winning. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 460. Xiao Xiao was the first one to be with me after all. Okay, hubby, you don't need to say anything anymore, Josie said to Li Jie. She knew that the reason Li Jie mentioned was just one of them, not the most important factor. I agreed. Josie paused, looked at Li Jie who was kneeling in front of her, and forced a smile. I'll let her do it once. Xiao, thank you, Li Jie squeezed her hand. Josie shook her head lightly. Hubby, you don't need to say thank you to me. You know, it's impossible for me to refuse your request. She really didn't want to agree, but she had to agree. Li Jie even knelt down, which made it impossible for her to refuse. There is no way I can refuse you. After hearing these words, Li Jie felt a little shaken for a moment, but he soon became firm again. Again, you can be impulsive when it comes to falling in love, but you must be cautious when getting married. Moreover, he did this for Josie's own good. If she really took the lead, there would probably be an ending that neither of them wanted to see. Just like Sister Li Gang relied on her beauty to commit murder and forced Liu's first wife away. She thought she was determined to win, but she didn't expect that De Lu turned around and married an ordinary-looking female secretary. After 10 years of persistence, there was no result. Honey, get up, Josie stood up and helped Li Jie up from the ground. Xiao, will you blame me? Li Jie sighed lightly. He didn't want to force Josie to give in like this, but he was too smart. Playing tricks in front of her won't work at all. He can only defeat skill with force. Husband, how could I blame you? After a pause, Josie said in a complex and sad tone, I am greedy. I originally said I would only be a lover, but I can't help but want more. Li Jie didn't speak any more, but held her tightly in his arms. He will try his best to make it up to her. Seeing the two hugging each other, everyone in the cafe thought the proposal was successful. The male customers looked at Li Jie with deep envy. It can be said that it is every man's dream to marry such a stunning beauty. Suddenly someone took the lead in applauding, and then everyone applauded. Josie leaned on Li Jie's shoulder, listening to the blessing applause, feeling unspeakably uncomfortable and about to shed tears. She bit her lip tightly, trying her best to prevent tears from flowing out. After a while, Josie felt relieved and said softly, Honey, it's getting late, you should go back. Li Jie released Josie from his arms, looked at her beautiful reddish eyes, and reached out to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes. But the moment he touched it, it turned into stroking her hair. Since she didn't want to show weakness in front of him, he just pretended not to notice. Xiao, let me take you back. Josie smiled, pretending to be relaxed. No, you'd better go back early. Uncle Qiao, Aunt Qiao, aren't they here? It doesn't matter, I'll give it to you, Li Jie insisted. How did his little lover know that Father Qiao and Mother Qiao were here? Okay, seeing Li Jie's insistence, Zhou Ziyu did not refuse. She glanced at the diamond ring on her hand and took it off. The diamond is too big, and it's a bit too ostentatious to wear. Li Jie looked at Zhou Ziyu and sighed in his heart. She was secretly trying to get into trouble with him. Okay, if you feel ostentatious, then bring less. On the way back, the two of them sat in the car without speaking. Li Jie hugged Zhou Ziyu, and Zhou Ziyu rested her head on his shoulder. When she came upstairs to the door, Zhou Ziyu turned around and said, "Husband, please go back." Li Jie looked at her and said, "I'll wait for you to go in before leaving." Okay, Zhou Ziyu took out the key and opened the door. That's right, she thought of something and turned her head again. "Husband, when are you and Xiao Jiao going to have a wedding?" Li Jie hesitated for a moment before saying, "Probably in August or September next year." Zhou Ziyu listened and nodded, "Then I will be Xiao Jiao's bridesmaid." "Are you serious?" Li Jie's face looked a little strange. He was just joking about asking the four of them to be each other's bridesmaids, but to his surprise, Zhou Ziyu took it seriously. What would Father Jiao and Mother Jiao think if she was going to appear at the wedding? Of course it's true. Zhou Ziyu looked at him and said, "I can't be the first to marry you. It's good to have some sense of participation." A sense of participation? After hearing what she said, Li Jie really didn't know what to say. Zhou Ziyu smiled and said, "Okay, I'm joking. Husband, I'm going in." After saying that, she opened the door and walked in. Seeing the door being closed, Li Jie sighed again, turned around and left. Zhou Ziyu closed the door, leaned her back against the door, and burst into tears. Cleverness is misled by cleverness. It's funny that she has always relied on her intelligence, but she didn't expect that it was because she was too smart that Li Jie had scruples. But Xiao Jiao, who was not smart enough, actually won. She thought that what Li Jie needed was a smart and virtuous wife, but what he wanted was just a silly woman who was easy to control. Zhou Ziyu also understood what Li Jie was worried about. He was worried that she would drive Xiao Jiao and the others away. But she really wouldn't do that. She never thought about driving away Xiao Jiao and the others. As long as she could occupy the dominant position, she would be satisfied. Zhou Ziyu really had the urge to tell Li Jie everything she felt, but she restrained herself. Because there is no point in explaining it, it cannot be explained clearly. If you really spell everything out, it will only embarrass each other. Zhou Ziyu wiped away her tears with a look of determination on her face. She only lost one game temporarily, and there is still a long way to go. Who will lose and win in the end is still uncertain. Being the hostess of a large conglomerate is not that easy. Can Xiao Jiao accompany Li Jie to attend various important occasions and socialize and entertain appropriately? Can she expand her wife's social circle? Can she help Li Jie take care of the rear? She can't. By then Li Jie will understand who is really suitable for him. Besides, as long as Li Jie and Xiao Jiao didn't receive their certificates for a day, she would still have a chance and she couldn't give up easily. There is still a year before the wedding next year. As long as she can get pregnant before then, with Li Jie's character, she will probably change her mind again. Even if she still couldn't get the chief position for the time being, at least she could get the certificate from Li Jie first. Just hope luck is on her side this time. With this in mind, Zhou Ziyu took out the diamond ring box from her handbag and opened it gently. Looking at the diamond, which was larger than a pigeon egg, shining brightly under the light, a thought suddenly came to her mind: this ring was only suitable for the royal palace to wear. When Li Jie returned to the Bund and found his brother-in-law, he found him and Lu Man standing in front of a snack stall, eating snacks and chatting and laughing. The vendors selling snacks came to set up stalls while the urban management was off work. In this era, management was not so strict. Seeing that Li Jie was back, Xiao Jin was stunned for a moment and said, "Brother-in-law, are you back so soon?" Does his cheap brother-in-law think he came back too early? Li Jie smiled and said, how was your shopping? Fine. Xiaojin glanced at Lu Man subconsciously. Lu Man took out his phone and checked the time. It's almost 10 o'clock. It's getting late and I should go back. Mr. Li, I'll leave first. After speaking to Li Jie, she turned to Xiaojin and said, Xiaojin, I'm leaving. Sister Xiaoman, we will see you again in the future, Xiaojin said with some reluctance. Seeing his cheap brother-in-law staring at Lu Man's leaving figure, Li Jie said funnily, don't look, everyone is gone. Xiaojin turned her head and smiled a little sheepishly. Brother-in-law, Miss Xiaoman is the anchor of your company. Why, you don't fall in love with someone after just one meeting, do you? That's not true. I just think Sister Xiaoman is pretty. After a pause, Xiaojin whispered a little embarrassedly, I just want to find a more beautiful girlfriend. Li Jie glanced at his cheap brother-in-law in surprise. He was quite honest. The so-called love at first sight is nothing more than lust. If a woman looks like Ruhua, no man will fall in love with her at first sight no matter how good her personality is. Well, not just men, but women too. I don't see many women chasing TV dramas and calling their idol husbands at the same time, completely regardless of what their boyfriends think. The one who is really handsome is my husband. Don't think about it, this Lu Man is not suitable for you. Why is it inappropriate? As an anchor, you need to communicate with your elder brother. Do you think you can accept it? Seeing that the cheap brother-in-law stopped talking, Li Jie smiled and patted his shoulder, there are many good girls. You may meet a more suitable girl soon after you enroll in school. Okay, let's go back. Are there many good girls? Xiaojin repeated a sentence in her heart, and suddenly felt something was wrong. There are so many beautiful girls around his brother-in-law, why does he only like his sister? By the time Li Jie and his brother-in-law returned to the apartment, it was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. Qiao's father and mother had already gone to bed. Only Xiao Qiao was sitting on the sofa with his legs crossed, watching If You Are the One. This Xiao Qiao is also quite strange. She doesn't need a blind date, so why does she always watch dating shows? Seeing that Li Jie and Xiao Jin had returned, Xiao Qiao couldn't help but ask, why have you two been running for so long? He went out before 8 o'clock in the evening and didn't come back until after 10 o'clock. After running for more than 2 hours? Li Jie said nonchalantly, Xiaojin and I walked around the bund together. Xiao Qiao was a little suspicious and looked at his younger brother, is that so, Xiaojin? Xiaojin smiled and nodded, yes, my brother-in-law and I walked around for a while and met. What happened? Xiao Qiao asked. I met a female anchor from the company, Li Jie said. Female anchor? Xiao Qiao frowned, Xiaojin, I told you not to reward any female anchors, let alone ask female anchors to be your girlfriend, you know? There are not many serious female anchors. As she said that, she glanced at Li Jie. In Xiao Qiao's view, the female anchors under Li Jie's company are all unruly little vixens. Sister, you are biased, anchoring is just a profession, Xiaojin couldn't help but retort. He had a very good impression of Lu Man tonight, but he didn't believe that she would be that kind of crooked girl. Xiaojin, you go take a shower, and then go to bed early. I'll ask your sister to take you to play tomorrow, Li Jie interjected. After Xiaojin went to take a shower, Li Jie and Xiao Qiao also went upstairs. This small duplex has 3 bedrooms. Qiao's father and Qiao's mother live in the second bedroom upstairs, and Xiaojin lives in the guest bedroom downstairs. Li Jie and Xiao Qiao live in the master bedroom upstairs. The two of them had even set a wedding date, so they stopped pretending and started living together openly. Li Jie no longer has to do the business of stealing fragrance and jade. However, he felt a little less tired now that he no longer had to steal love and beauty. As soon as he returned to the bedroom, Li Jie hugged Xiao Qiao and wanted to torment her. For letting the president stay alone in the empty room for so long, he was ready to make it up to her. But Xiao Qiao showed some resistance. "Hubby, why don't you go take a bath and go to bed early?" Li Jie was a little surprised. "Didn't you say you wanted to eat?" Halfway through, he paused and changed his words. "Didn't you think about it? How can anyone say that he is a big pig? Husband, aren't you physical? What about that? It's better not to." Xiao Jiao was hesitant and looked at Li Jie in a strange way. It's true that she has needs, but she doesn't want to catch all the fish and make it difficult to eat fish again in the future. Li Jie was stunned for a moment before he understood what she meant. He couldn't help but feel angry and funny. This Xiao Jiao actually doubted his ability. You must know that he has been cultivating himself for a week, and his physical fitness is so good that he can fight 1 against 4. Even if he picks 2 more, he will have a little confidence. If he doesn't let Xiao Jiao cry and scream tonight, he will share her surname with Xiao. Kneel down. Qiao's father and Qiao's mother did not stay in Shanghai longer. They only stayed for 3 or 4 days before returning to Xishan. Xiaojin continued to live with Xiao Qiao, waiting for the university to start. After taking down Xiao Qiao and Zhou Ziyu, Li Jie continued his efforts and took down Lu Kaiyu. What should I do if my long-legged secretary gets into trouble? He, the big boss, could only put down his posture and comfort him personally. In the company, Li Jie frequently made excuses to call Lu Kaiyu to the back office, and touched her, coaxing and tricking her, no, persuading her. After coaxing him like this for 5 or 6 days, Li Jie seized the opportunity and left Lu Kaiyu alone in the conference room for an in-depth exchange after a meeting. She half-heartedly forgave him. What surprised Li Jie was Shen Xinyi. He went to Shen Xinyi's boutique many times, and Shen Guiguai seemed to have forgiven him. In fact, they had a secret quarrel with him and engaged in nonviolent non-cooperation. She refused to move back to the apartment, Platinum Bay Mansion, and would not let Li Jie touch her again. Li Jie coaxed and persuaded, and admitted his mistakes, but this Shen Guiguai was not good at all and refused to forgive him no matter what. Being forced into a bit of a hurry, Li Jie was ready to have some hard sex. He raided her place at night and wanted sleeping clothes. No, he wanted to persuade her. In the end, he was rejected. No matter how much he said good things, Shen Guiguai just refused to open the door for him and let him go in and sit down. They even changed the door lock, invalidating Li Jie's spare key and giving him no chance of forcing his way in. He stood pitifully outside the door for most of the night, and was regarded as a bad guy with evil intentions by the girl who lived alone next door. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 461. Fortunately, Li Jie's efforts were not in vain. After more than a week of hard work, Shen Xinyi's attitude softened a lot. In addition to being unwilling to communicate with him in depth, she no longer resisted anything like cuddling or hugging him. So Li Jie was ready to strike while the iron was hot and get rid of Shen Guiguai once and for all. At noon on August 25, Li Jie once again came to Shen Xinyi's boutique on Huihei Road. "Mr. Li, you're here." Seeing Li Jie enter the store, 3 or 4 young female clerks hurriedly came to greet him. Li Jie asked them, "Where is your landlady?" "The store manager is out," a pretty and generous girl in her 20s or 14 years old said. "Mr. Li, why don't you wait for a while?" This girl is the supervisor of the store. Her name is Sun Xiaoyu, and she is also the most highly educated among the female clerks, having graduated from a college. "Okay, then I'll wait for a while," Li Jie nodded. "Mr. Li, sit down." A clerk brought a chair. Li Jie shook his head, "No need." Several female clerks looked at Li Jie with curiosity and awe. They were all recruited by the Human Resources Department of Kudong Group and knew that Li Jie was the big boss of the company. They were all envious and curious that the boss lady had found such a young and promising billionaire, especially after learning that Shenzhenyi was just a college graduate. Li Jie didn't pay attention to the looks of several girls and wandered around the store. This boutique is not small in size, with an area of more than 200 square meters, and is luxuriously decorated. It mainly takes the high-end route, selling the same trendy brands as celebrities, film and television game peripheral products, genuine figures, accessories, props, etc. The items in the store are very expensive. A short-sleeved t-shirt costs 400 to 500, a set of better figures costs thousands, and even a small accessory costs more than 100 yuan. Most of the people who come here to spend money are middle class and above, as well as celebrity fans. When you spend a certain amount of money in the store, you will be given a photo signed by the celebrity as a gift, so many fans come here. This is the store. A girl led the way, and 5 or 6 boys and girls who looked like they were in high school opened the door and walked in. They all dress up in the latest fashion, wearing many famous brands, and they all seem to have good family backgrounds. These students glanced at Li Jie and didn't care. Only a little girl dressed a little unconventionally looked at him a few more times. "Does your store give away autographed photos of Running Man when buying t-shirts?" a boy asked. Sun Xiaoyu said with a smile, "Yes, our store is currently holding an event. The original t-shirt of Running Man is only 398, and the same style hat and signed photo are also given away. The discount is very strong. Nowadays, Running Man is extremely popular, especially after the program was recently broadcast on 3 major TV stations in Jiangsu Province, Zhejiang Province, and Shanghai City. It has truly become a national variety show. Here in Shanghai, many students are competing to buy genuine t-shirts from Running Man. Anyone who doesn't have one will be embarrassed. Okay, then each of us wants one." Each of these students chose a t-shirt of the same style as Running Man. In addition, 2 girls each bought an Angry Birds figure, and a boy bought a cup with Luan Xiaolin's photo printed on it. After vigorously promoting mobile games such as Angry Birds, Temple Run, and fruit slicing for nearly a year, they finally started to become popular. In particular, Angry Birds has become even more popular in Europe and the United States. It first appeared on the UK game recommendation homepage, and then topped the list in the United States. Its total downloads are now almost over 100 million. It was also named the most incredible pop culture fanatic symbol of 2010 by the New York Times. However, in more than half a year, Angry Birds has brought nearly $50 million in revenue to Qwen Technology. Everyone at Qwen Technology is a little confused that a small mobile game can make so much money. This is more than what large-scale client games can make. You must know that the development of Angry Birds only cost 300,000 to 400,000 yuan. Even Li Jie was surprised. He knew this little game would be popular, but he didn't expect it to be so popular. At present, Qwen Technology's overseas game revenue has almost caught up with its domestic revenue. By next year, overseas income will surpass domestic income. A large part of Angry Birds' revenue comes from game peripherals, and sales of products such as figures and props are booming. The several model toy factories that Li Jie had previously invested in and acquired were working overtime to produce various game peripheral products and were overwhelmed. Qwen Technology could only invite a few more companies to bid for commissioned production. Games such as Angry Birds are also very popular in China. However, due to the low penetration rate of smartphones and the proliferation of pirated peripherals, the revenue is far less than that of foreign countries. Although Li Jie has tried his best to lower the prices of genuine peripherals, piracy is still rampant and difficult to control. 90% of peripheral products for games such as Angry Birds on the market are pirated. One time, Xiao Qiao went shopping and bought an Angry Birds doll. When she came back, Li Jie discovered that what she bought was a pirated version. This really left him unable to complain. But the general environment is like this. This does not mean that it will work if you sue a few piracy companies. A few students were about to leave after shopping. The little girl, who was dressed a little unconventionally, looked at Li Jie again and suddenly said, "Handsome guy, you look like Jin Tan." Li Jie was a little surprised and looked at the little girl who was speaking. She looked to be about 15 or 16 years old, and she was dressed very avant-garde, with half-shoulder short sleeves and a denim skirt, revealing a pair of fair calves. Her hairstyle was a kind of long bangs that were a bit too cool, and she also had a strand of blue hair dyed. Jin Tan? Who is Jin Tan? Li Jie pretended not to understand. The airs has been airing for more than a year, and the popularity has long passed. Now few people will recognize Li Jie. Have you never seen the airs? The male protagonist Jin Tan is very handsome, and you really look like him, the little girl said excitedly. Handsome guy, how much do you want to QQ? How about we make friends? Li Jie shook his head, let's forget it. Making friends with underage girls is a very punishable crime, starting from 3 years. When the little girl heard this, she was a little unhappy. I just want to make friends, why, I won't give you face. The little boy next to her interjected, Ming Ming, if he doesn't want to, forget it. Just don't talk to him. He's just an outdated uncle. It can be seen that this little boy is obviously interested in the little girl. Uncle. Li Jie's face looked a little ugly. He was only 22 years old. How could he be an uncle? This guy is still pretending to be young, and in terms of mental age, he is already in his 4th year. Let's go. Seeing that Li Jiejin refused to make friends with her, the little girl glared at him and left with the little boy and the others. Looking at the little girl and others leaving, Li Jie shook his head slightly and withdrew his gaze. No wonder so many people want to be celebrities, with extremely high incomes, not to mention ice cream and a lot of fun, and many special benefits. Li Jie was reborn a little early, and he didn't know that a new unit of measurement would appear later, Yulun. For example, send a welfare to fans or something. He just looks a bit like a celebrity, so there are little girls who want to talk to him, let alone those real popular celebrities. If you have fun, you can say that changing women is faster than changing clothes. As soon as the students left, another young couple walked into the store and bought 2 couple t-shirts for 700 to 800. The film, television, and game peripheral industries are truly hugely profitable industries. Just like the t-shirts bought by those students in the same style as Running Man. The cost is only 30 or 40 yuan, but the price is not lower than that of big-name t-shirts. Unfortunately, most domestic consumers are not in the habit of buying peripheral derivatives such as movies, TV shows, and games. Coupled with the proliferation of piracy, the peripheral derivatives market is very small. Even so, Li Jie still attaches great importance to the domestic market and has formulated a plan to build an industry chain for domestic film and television and game peripheral derivatives. Although overseas revenue is high, Kudong Group cannot rely too much on overseas markets. Its foundation is still in China. It is impossible for European and American countries to watch a foreign company occupy their own cultural market and make huge profits. Just like TikTok's situation overseas, it is a lesson for others. Customers were coming and going in the store, and it seemed like business was pretty good. But Li Jie waited for nearly an hour, but still didn't see Shen Xian come back. This Shen Guiguai is really bad. Li Jie had called Shen Xinyi in advance before coming, but she still refused to come back even though she knew he was coming, obviously deliberately leaving him out. After waiting for another 20 minutes, it wasn't until about 1 o'clock in the afternoon that Shen Xinyi came back with a girl. You're here, Shen Xian glanced at Li Jie. The girl next to her said respectfully, Mr. Li. Li Jie looked at the girl and had an impression of her. She seemed to be a small anchor at Kudong Studio. What did you two do? Of course we are going to eat, Shen Xian said calmly. What are you doing here? Before Li Jie could answer, she continued, if you don't have anything important to do, Just leave quickly. It's almost 2 o'clock. Don't you still have to go to work in the afternoon? Li Jie looked at Shen Xinyi and really had the urge to pull her over and spank her. He had waited for her for so long, but she drove him away as soon as she came back. This is too much. To be honest, he has never waited so long for a girl. Even Xiao Qiao never made him wait like this. Forget it, just endure it for now. Once he gets rid of Shen obediently, he will let her know what family law is. If she doesn't let her cry and beg for mercy, he will take her surname Shen. Li Jie felt furious in his heart, but his expression remained unchanged. He turned to look at the girl next to Shen Xinyi. The girl was stunned for a moment, then realized what she was doing and said quickly, "Shen Xinyi, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first." After saying that, she left in a hurry. After coming out of the boutique, the girl looked back and saw Li Jie and Shen Xian in the store. She used to think that Shen Xinyi was just one of Li Jie's many lovers and was not taken seriously. Now it seems that it is not. What lover would dare to be so disrespectful to his sponsor? She still has too little experience and has never seen Sister Li Gang, who relies on her beauty to commit crimes. Obviously, Shen Xinyi's status in Li Jie's heart was not ordinary, and it was necessary for her to further build a good relationship with him. "Why did you drive her away?" Shen Xinyi said, a little dissatisfied. "This Shen obediently talks to you, and even refuses to call her husband. Just wait, she will not only call her husband from now on, but also." Li Jie said nothing, took Shen Xinyi's hand and walked out. "Where are you taking me?" Shen Xinyi was a little resistant. "You'll know when you get there." Seeing that the proprietress and Li Jie left together, the female shop assistants who had been quietly watching the show looked at each other with strange and gossipy expressions. 10 minutes later, Li Jie took Shen Xinyi to a restaurant on the food street. Huihei Road is one of the most prosperous commercial streets in Shanghai. It not only has various high-end shopping malls and big-name brands, but also a food street. Shen Xian glanced at the restaurant and said, "Why did you bring me to the restaurant? I've already eaten." "You have eaten, but I haven't eaten yet," Li Jie said angrily. He originally wanted to come over and have dinner with Shen Xinyi, but he was left alone until the afternoon. Shen Xian was stunned for a moment, then pursed his lips, as if he wanted to laugh. "Are you still laughing?" Li Jie stared at her and said. "Why am I laughing?" Shen Xian said this, but the smile on his face became more obvious. She didn't expect that Li Jie didn't even eat to wait for her, but he deserved it, because this guy always bullied her. "Okay, if you don't smile, then the puppy is smiling. You are the puppy. No, you are not a dog but a wolf, big wolf. How dare you slander him as a wolf? This Shen Guiguai must be dealt with properly." When he walked into the restaurant, Li Jie didn't ask for a private room, so he found a seat by the window and sat down with Shen Xinyi. He ordered 4 dishes and 1 soup, spicy chicken, wanzhou grilled fish, special dry pot, stir-fried scallops with garlic, and sour radish and duck soup. These are not Li Jie's favorite dishes, but Shen Xinyi's favorite dishes. It was almost 2 p.m., and Li Jie was really hungry. He picked up his chopsticks and started eating. These dishes all taste good, just a bit spicy. As soon as Shen Xian sat aside, she watched him eat. After eating for a while and feeling less hungry, Li Jie glanced at Shen Xinyi and said, "I think this grilled fish tastes the best." After hearing this, Shen Xian nodded. This store's wanzhou grilled fish is indeed more authentic. As a foodie, she knows all about the delicious restaurants in Shanghai. "How about you try it too?" Li Jie said, picking up a piece of grilled fish and feeding it to Shen Xian's mouth. Well, okay, seeing how delicious Li Jie's food was, Shen Xian couldn't help but order some too, and wanted to eat it. She opened her small mouth and wanted to bite into the grilled fish, but Li Jie suddenly pulled the chopsticks back, leaving Shen Xian to take a bite. What are you doing? Call me husband and I will feed you. Shen Xian smiled, as if I wouldn't compromise just for a bite to eat. It's okay if I don't eat it? You really don't want to eat anymore, Li Jia asked with a smile. I won't eat anymore. Shen Xian turned away. Li Jia nodded, it doesn't matter if you don't eat. You're already 120 pounds. If you eat more, you'll really look like a little fat girl. Shen Xian stopped after hearing this, you're fat. She couldn't help but curse. Also, I'm 120 pounds. I'm only 110 pounds, okay. I have a very standard figure. Didn't you say 112 pounds last time? Li Jia said, pretending to be surprised. Rounding up, it's 120 kilograms.